Do not bring your politics out of respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived to these homegoing services. Right. Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these homegoing services are welcome to all. Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We only ask people to come and be respectful in the context of the extraordinary life that he lived.
Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions. Another setback to the idea of the rule of law. An offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others.
I don't care what they do in Washington. I care what we do in the community. We beat people bigger than Trump. We fought people harder than them if we stand up and be what we're supposed to be.
This is bad times like now. We're in a tough spot, folks. We got an administration that doesn't share any of the values that we have. And I don't think I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Let me just say, I predicted a lot about what's happening right now. I'm not into saying I told you so, but we did see it coming.
When a political party cannot even honor the wishes of a dead man's family, a dead icon's family at that, for that matter, you no longer have a political party that operates for the people. You have a political entity that is only concerned about two things at the moment. The first thing is always power. We are in fact dealing with people who see the world through power dynamics and nothing else. But we are also dealing with people who are obsessed with being seen as the greatest, the brightest, these are people who are concerned about advancing their agenda by any means necessary. And we will be getting to that in a bit. But good evening to all of you. Greetings. Thank you for joining us. Good evening to all of you out there. This is Apostate Radio episode 46. I am Isaiah Carter, running a little bit behind Nino Chavez. My brother, my co-host, will be here momentarily, hopefully within the next 10 minutes. And so we're just gonna start off real quick. Miss Courtenay Turner, who is actually, I see her in the back. Guess we'll be getting her set up momentarily as well. But before we get started, of course, I want to just do the little bit of business that we always have. First and foremost, if you can follow us at Isaiah L. Carter or at Nino Chavez X. Those are our individual channels. You can also follow the show. Our show page directly is Apostate Radio NY. And you can support us financially if you feel so inclined. And I'm going to tell you, this is not a charity like a charity case. We definitely we definitely appreciate all financial help that you can give us. You can do so at buymeacoffee.com/apostate radio. Also, subscriptions are available now on X at $5 a month on my page. We also have the Apostate Radio Venmo at Apostate Radio NY, so you can throw us a few ducats that way if you feel so inclined as well. And I believe we can go ahead and get started. I think, Courtenay, are you ready? Not quite. Okay. Oh, hold on. Well, can I bring you up? I'll bring you up. Hey, Courtenay.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. Wow, nice setup.
Thank you.
Nice set. I believe this is the first time that I've had you on the show. That we've had you here. It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
And we it was an interesting way that we met. We met off of a post that I'd written, and we'll get to that in the second hour. I guess I should have asked like how long we have you for this evening, but since this is your first time, like I said, my co-host Nino will be joining us in a few minutes.
Great.
If you could talk to everyone, just introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are and what you are about.
Who I am and what I'm about. Well, I'm Courtenay Turner. I'm the host of the Courtenay Turner podcast. I also am a co-host of the Dangerous Dame show. I write on Substack. I'm also the co-author of The Final Betrayal, which is the book right there behind me. My co-author is Patrick Wood, who is the living expert on technocracy. And I guess I'll give you a little quick rundown of how I got into all of this. I started, after the I don't know what we're allowed to say on here, but, post 2020. And I was living in Santa Monica, California at the time, doing something completely unrelated. I was an aerial acrobatic performer. I did motivational speaking, talking about my birth story. And I would do aerial performances to talk about movement as a metaphor for life and how people could use physical training as a tool to overcome adversity in other areas of life. And I would use my personal story as a testament and show them the aerial so they could see what was possible when no one thought it was. But I was also a coach. I was working at several gyms and I got fired from both gyms that I was working at. I can't prove it, but I'm 99.9 infinitely repeating sure that it was over politics. And I found myself very isolated, very alone. And I learned how to speak by reading lips. So I now wear bilateral hearing aids, but I actually didn't get them till I was almost 6 years old. And
wow. Okay.
So when everyone's faces was covered, I didn't realize how much I still depended on nonverbal communication and lip reading for clarity of speech until all the coping mechanisms I spent my entire life developing were then stripped from me by these face diapers. And, so I found myself very, very isolated, and I really couldn't talk to people because I had no way of communicating. And everybody's faces was covered. And so I started joining a lot of online like Zoom groups and, video calls. And when some people heard my story and started seeing me do these posts on social media that I really didn't think were contentious, but I learned very quickly in that time that I could post a picture of an orange on social media and people will spend the entire week explaining to me that it's really an apple and why I'm wrong. That's how that works. So
that's an everyday struggle.
Yeah, so I didn't realize, and I really wasn't posting things that I thought were going to be contentious, but that I just learned pretty quickly that's the nature of social media. And so several people had suggested I start a podcast, and I knew nothing about podcasts. I had dated someone who's a YouTuber years prior, and I did write for Politichicks, and I did interviews and whatnot for them, but I didn't quite put it together like that YouTube was podcast. I mean, I was just clueless. And so I wasn't familiar. And so I asked them to explain. They said, like Rogan. They're like, actually, you need to be on Rogan. And I said, what's a Rogan? Why do I need to be on it? This is how little I knew about podcasting. Right. So that led me to start listening to podcasts. I listened to Rogan, led me to the intellectual dark web. And long story not so short, the idea of starting a podcast sounded horrifying. I had zero interest in doing it. But then it dawned on me that it might be a way to have naked face conversations, and that might save my life. And so,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So in 2021, I aired my first episode. I actually aired my solo episode in December of 2020, but I aired my first guest in 2021. So.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations. Congratulations on that. Are you, so you are able to hear me speak? You're able to, you said you have implants currently?
Hearing aids. I wear hearing aids, bilateral hearing aids. Yeah.
I got you.
So I am able to hear you. It does help when I will not do podcasts with people who won't show their face. So if they don't want to show their face on camera, I'm okay with editing that later. But just because I depend so much on seeing the person and reading their lips is actually very important to me. So it makes it very awkward otherwise. So
got you. Okay. So I'll make sure that you can see see my face.
I have my hearing aids in, but yeah, I appreciate it.
So normally what we do in the first hour is we talk about some of the current events. Current events have been going on. There's been a lot going on of late. Yes. I guess. Well, I'll start with. Have you kept up with the Jesse Jackson funeral?
No, I have not kept up with that at all.
Oh wow! So Friday was the funeral for the now late Jesse Jackson Sr. Okay. Jesse Jackson, the Rainbow Push Coalition founder, passed away at age 84, and at the funeral, the son of Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jackson, Jesse Jackson Jr., basically said, matter of fact, I have the actual video here. He was very clear when he said, "Don't bring your politics." He was very, very clear about this. Here's the video.
Dad believed that funerals were not for the dearly departed. He believed funerals were for the living. He believed that they were great gathering meetings, and no two lives in human history will have the same number of people attending their funerals, or the same people will be at their funerals, because your friends ain't my friends ain't your friends. We don't know the same people. You don't know the same people that I know. Do not bring your politics, out of respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived, to these homegoing services. Right. Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these homegoing services are welcome to all. Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We all.
And Democrats spent the entire funeral stepping all over that.
Of course.
You had Barack Obama, who of course started it all, and I've got clips that I meant to upload that aren't in here, but Barack Obama started it. You had Joe Biden stand up there and say that he was basically smarter than everybody in the room. And then you had Kamala Harris, who, of course, was just like, oh, I told y'all, I told you so. Like, I'm just sitting here like, they specifically said, don't bring politics to this thing. Yeah. And then like I don't like you said you hadn't followed it, but it's just like I don't know how much more of this I can take from this political entity. I don't. I mean, like they've proven time and time again from the Doge, from the stuff that we learned about in from Doge to the way in which they've conducted themselves throughout the second term of Donald Trump. It's just like I don't know how much more. I don't know how much more of this depravity I can take from these people. It's like how are like I don't know. Like we're talking about people who like destroy. I mean, how many lives were destroyed because of COVID mandates? How many lives were destroyed because of blasphemy laws and all of that? Like I don't know. Your thoughts on all that, Courtenay?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly through COVID. I mean, I shared you my story, which was relatively mild compared to many others, but it was a very, very dark time. And I was living in Santa Monica, California at the time, which is, it was very political. I will say this, though. Like, I feel like I started my podcast very immersed in the political aspect of it. And I kept saying, the left is behaving as controlled opposition the right is behaving as controlled opposition for the left. And if we could just get the right people in office, we could fix this whole mess. And it took me about 3 weeks in, and I said, oh, wait, they were created to be controlled opposition for the left. And so a lot of this does end up being like dialectical theater. And the political games that get played are designed for people to be trapped in it, so the people are back and forth, my team, your team. While I think there is above that, there is definitely an agenda that's being rolled out beyond that. But I've never aligned with the left. I've, and I always grew up, I was always surrounded by the left. So I'm very used to being in a milieu where I'm not amongst my peers, at least politically, ideologically, intellectually. Even growing up, it was, and I would be penalized in school for it. So I've never aligned with them. And I honestly see their, I've always felt like they were very, very brainwashed, but I'm now feeling like a lot of politics are brainwashing just all around.
So tell me a little bit about tell me a little bit more about your upbringing. And also you said you did aerial training at the start of the show. Like, what was that like for you growing up, like in that kind of milieu where you're not really amongst your, like you're not really amongst too many like-minded people? Like I've kind of struggled with that living here in New York, living in New York for the last couple of years, where I've had, I would say since 2020, where even though I voted for Biden, which was the biggest mistake of my entire political life, like I was already starting to roll back from them with COVID. So like, what was that like for you where you are right now?
So I grew up right outside New York City, and I lived in Manhattan for years after college.
Oh,
well, I grew in Manhattan. I lived right above the MoMA. So,
okay. But you lived north of the city also?
No. I lived. Well, what you mean when I was growing up? I grew up in New Jersey and grew up in New Jersey. Yeah, okay. But I lived in Midtown Manhattan after college. I went to college upstate, so I went to Hamilton College. The same alma mater as the founder of our current propaganda machine, the double nephew of Edward Bernays, Mark Randolph Bernays. He went to Hamilton also.
Oh boy,
not anywhere near the same time as me, but yeah. So I grew up in that. Like I went to school with the Finks kids. Like nobody was aligned with me. I literally got penalized in school. I remember my junior year of high school, I finally got up the courage to ask about a paper. My history teacher, I still remember her name, Miss Gelman. And there was not a single mark on the paper, no red marks or anything. And she gave me, I can't remember if it was a B or B plus, but it wasn't an A, and there were no marks on the paper. So it took me all this courage to go up to her and say, I just want to know how I could improve for next time, because you gave me no feedback, but you didn't give me a great grade. And her response was, you didn't praise Fidel Castro. And me being kind of like a naive teenager, I just blurted out, he's a murderous dictator. What was I supposed to praise? And she said, well, that's why you got the grade you got.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was on the debate team, and I was always being, like I rarely win, but not because of the debate, but not because of my debate skills, but because of the stance that I took. I mean, sometimes we would have to take sides that you don't support just to, for the exercise of debate. But usually we were debating what we were passionate about, and that was not popular. So, yeah. And then, in college, it was I had actually chosen it because I didn't think it was so far left, but it progressively got further and further left, even while I was there. And then, of course, I was in New York City. And when I graduated, I majored in philosophy, but when I graduated, I actually went to Stella Adler. And I was in the acting world and the entertainment industry, and everybody was very far left. Even the casting, you could start to see all the propaganda. I remember actually asking a casting director, because I could see when they were starting to do all the, now it's more like trans diversity, but back then it was just, there was never any traditional relationships or families. And I said, so do like normal couples not exist anymore? Like, what's up with this? It was very strange to me. I was like, aren't we supposed to be representing? I mean, of course you tell stories about all kinds of people, but the proportionality of what was being represented in these scripts just made no sense to me. I could see the propaganda that was being pushed. And then I found out that SAG had these requirements for diversity and, basically DEI, before people were really talking about DEI.
Was this before any of the new regulations that they put in a few years ago?
Yeah, this was in the early 2000s. So yeah, so I really watched that whole thing be pushed. And in fact, when I moved out to LA, I tell this story all the time because I would never believe it unless I experienced it firsthand. But in New York, I had a theater company, so I did a lot of production, not just I did film production as well, but mostly smaller kind of projects. But when I moved out to LA, I ended up doing quite a bit of film production, and I would meet with a lot of what I was doing was trying to raise money, because films are really expensive.
Yes,
and
they are.
I would meet with these people, and you would get these contracts for the funding. And in it would say that if there's any pro-American messaging, the funding will be rescinded.
Oh my God.
The reason for it was because most of it was coming from China.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they had very heavy-handed Chinese propaganda, but anything pro-American messaging. And it didn't have to be overt Chinese messaging. It just, if it was pro-American, then they would rescind your funding. And that was actually explicitly in the contract. Of course, I never signed it, which is probably why I failed as a film producer. But my career took a turn. But there were other things along the way. But yeah, so I witnessed some things firsthand that, unless I saw it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so I mean, it was really just, I was always surrounded by people who were didn't align with my views. And so I kind of learned pretty early, I stopped talking about politics, at the funeral, we kept politics out of it. But when I moved to LA, someone had invited me to a group that was called FOA, Friends of Abe. And it was a group that was started by Gary Sinise that was, as Jeremy Boring says, it was so secret that it was on the front page of the New York Times.
Oh,
but it was literally. And that was because of the tax scandal, where they came after them. But Gary Sinise started this group because he felt like he couldn't even talk to people in the industry without risking getting blackballed. And so
And that's insane,
just,
given how many conservatives are actually in Hollywood. Like I remember, I mean, not just Gary Sinise, like Bruce Willis was, Mel Gibson, obviously, who's one of probably the most prolific ones. Jim Caviezel. There are matter of fact, who's Neil McDonough.
yeah,
the one with like the steel blue eyes, like him, like he, he's played villains in certain things, but like I remember hearing about him. Neil McDonough he didn't want to be involved in any kissing scenes because he didn't want to basically like kiss any woman who wasn't his wife,
right, yeah,
and that froze him out of a lot.
so yeah,
of deals and everything. So yeah, that's crazy.
Christian or conservative, yeah, and it really wasn't even like conservative. It's just because what happened in FOA, it was really just became anybody who was not on the left. So it was a very broad tent. But he created it just as a fellowship so that people could have people in the industry that they could be friends with and talk to without risking losing their job and never be working again. And so I had been invited into that group, and through that, like I had said, the YouTuber I was dating at the time was involved with something called Politichicks, and I got asked to write for them, so I started doing interviews for them. So I started speaking out a lot more. But I went through a lot of my life where I just stayed very quiet unless I knew. And I remember my dad saying something to me about how, within the first 5 minutes of talking to someone where they stand politically. And it was true. I did. But I think it was because I was always kind of on the defense, so I kind of had to know when to walk on eggshells.
Well, good news. We have my co-host, my brother from another mother, Mr. Nino Chavez, in the building. What's good, man? How are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Sorry I'm coming on late. Courtney, it's great to meet you. I've been listening to about the last 10 minutes of the show, and it's I'm probably as disgusted as you are about how biased and propagandish much of media and Hollywood and culture has become, even music now. So I'm glad you're sharing your story about that.
If we, in fact, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but like we can talk about how in sports, like that's a big problem where it just seems like everything. It seems, whoa, that's not good. What just happened? Okay, here we go. No. Sorry, I lost you guys. Oh, you're playing around with the things. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not able to see it on my end for some reason. Like the screen, I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
The third one from the left is the one I use.
Okay. All right.
No, but media, it's funny that we could talk about this. Like, I've watched our favorite sport, me and Nino's, is soccer. We love soccer very, very much. Both of us have been connected to MLS teams over the course of our lives. And what's always been so striking to me is the monopoly with which leftists have held everything, regardless, like not just even in MLS, but in sport in general. It's like, I did a video about it last night where essentially where I'm basically saying like all of the leftist journalists who are in media right now are simply there, it seems, to be enforcers for leftist ideology amongst teams and amongst amongst teams, players, stuff like that. It's not just in Hollywood, but it's a pattern that I've noticed.
Well, I think, what I typically say is, because I was talking about the dialectical theater, of politics. Yes. And what I typically notice is that the left is really good at the messaging, the propaganda. They are really the social engineering arm, in my opinion. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, that's what they handle. And so, of course, that encompasses the media, entertainment, music, all of that sphere. as well as academia as part of that. So they control a lot of those institutions, hence the long march through the institution. But the right advances the agenda. And they do it typically because you have control of the narrative. So now when the right's in power, you have the people who would be pushing back, that they don't, they're placated because they think, oh, okay, well now we have control, and they've been fed this narrative that the left is going to do all these things. But like I said, I think there is a kind of above that, you see an agenda that it really doesn't have much of a political allegiance one way or the other. I'm not denying, the philosophical roots of any of them, whether it be, conservative, liberal, whatever the label may be, they may have strong philosophical roots. But at this point, what they actually become, in effect, operationally, is marketing for target audiences. People start to identify, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. And so there's certain buzzwords, right? They start dog whistling and people go, oh, that's me, I'm in that box. And when they know they have you in that box, they know what to feed you, right? It's like we feed this to dogs, this to cats, this to fish, and so they feed you different things, different narratives, and then they're able to manipulate you that way. But I do see that, what you're saying is absolutely true. The left tends to control all of those institutions because they control the messaging. And I think they're really largely the social engineering arm. That doesn't mean the right doesn't do any social engineering. They do. But it's very strong.
It seems super limited for the right, though, because since the right doesn't usually control many institutions at all.
Exactly.
In fact, they're generally ostracized, it seems like. I'm trying to think of what they do control, honestly, besides the White House, I guess, and Congress.
So when they're in power, they tend to advance the agenda. Right. And so right now, although I would say in terms of institutions, it's a new institution. It didn't exist, in like a century ago, would be the tech Silicon Valley. And right now they very much have control of that in terms of the relationship with the White House. But a lot of them actually come from the left. So it's not that they're ideologically aligned. That's why I say it's about marketing more than it's about operational success.
Silicon Valley is interesting too, because you're talking about like you said, like back in, I don't know, 2016, 15, 14, a little in between before 2000, even 2020, the Great Awakening. It's like a lot of Silicon Valley companies, even like Facebook, Meta, Twitter, of course, before Elon took over. So many different social media companies and apps and that sort of thing were obviously very left leaning. You can even say things that are true if they disagree with it. Like a man is a woman, and a man can't be a woman can't be a man. Right. Things like that. And it's funny how a lot of them changed their tune now that when Trump got elected, or right before Trump got elected for some of them. And it's interesting. I know it's hard to say what do they believe, like the Zuckerbergs of the world, because he's sounded very woke in the past, and then he kind of sounded a little bit more conservative more recently on Rogan and some of his statements, perhaps, and some of his decisions. And is it really in their hands, or is it really like is there like a subversion going on in Meta, for example, where there's like the engineers and the algorithm people or whatever, or the online safety people are like secretly subverting him and pushing certain things down, sort of, more liberal or leftist ideas, promoting those, and then what do they call throttling the conservative stuff. So it's hard to say. What do you think about that?
I think they're technocrats, and I think technocrats have no political allegiance. They don't care about left, right. They care about efficiency, optimization, power. And that's really their ideology. So technocracy goes back over a century. I actually got the technocracy study course, and if you'll notice, that map is actually the map of the technate. And they keep talking about acquiring Greenland and Canada, it's parts of South America. That's right on that map. But the Technocracy Inc. started in 1932 out of Columbia University, and there is a quote I've cited it many times, but they say that the technocracy in Technocrat magazine, 1937, they defined it. They said the definition of technocracy is the science of social engineering. And then they go on, I'll paraphrase, I don't remember exactly the quote, but they go on to say that there's no room for politicians, religion, racketeering or racketeers, that it's all about, it's an economic system. So there really is two pillars of technocracy. And because it's a science of social engineering, that's one pillar. And it's a very important pillar because it is how they execute their goals. But then the other is that it was created as an economic response to the Great Depression. And so they believe that the whole reason we're in, at the time that we were experiencing scarcity was because of the price system. So essentially because of markets, that markets were the problem, and that we could live in abundance if we just switched over to an energy credit system, which sounds an awful lot like when you hear about carbon credits today. And who else talks about how we could live in abundance if we had a universal higher income? That would be
Ezra Klein.
Elon Musk talks about this. Elon Musk.
That's true. He does. You're right. Yes.
Yep.
He does that as
Elon
well.
Musk's grandfather, Josh Halderman, was the head of Technocracy Inc. in Canada from 1936 to 1941. He actually got kicked out. It got shut down because of their allegiance to the Nazi Party. And then when he left the Technocracy Inc., he joined what was called the Social Credit Party. And he rose pretty high ranks in the Social Credit Party. So this idea of the universal basic income, or universal higher income, as Elon likes to say, is straight out of technocracy. So these people in Silicon Valley is traditionally very left. I mean, it's, right outside of San Francisco, although some of them are outside of LA, it's the big companies. But traditionally, you think of San Francisco and that whole Bay Area and Silicon Valley, and they are pretty far left. However, right now, because the quote unquote Republicans are in power, they have made quite the allegiance with the Republicans and the Trump administration, and there has been kind of a hard turn. Now, there are definitely different philosophical factions within the TESCREAL movement. And some of them, would be claimed to be on the quote unquote right because they're opposed to things like wokeism. But when you start scratching beneath the surface, their philosophy is really technocracy, and it's very much post-human. It's not at all, traditionally conservative or the liberal. Or like
so
liberal
this is so this technocracy thing you're talking about hasn't changed that much, and it's like the main gist of it since the 1930s. You're saying is that right?
Yeah, the technology is what has changed, but the
technology has changed. Right?
Yeah, the technology for them to execute their visions has very much advanced, and now what they had envisioned could be a reality, and they're very much making it a reality.
So they've already been. Would you say they were already implementing much of this as much as they can? For their time in radio and television, like broadcast television, that sort of thing?
I'm not sure I'm following the question.
Because you said that, no, it's all right. Even they're promoting this propaganda or pushing people in a certain direction, like America and the West or wherever, even over radio or over television, the way that they're doing it now, and all this media, as you mentioned. If we're talking about the same people.
So historically,
technocrats,
the technocrats. So historically, the technocrats, in terms of social engineering, they're operating through, whichever mediums they possibly can. But historically, the mediums for social engineering and propaganda were, when the printing press, came on the scene, then it became the pamphlets and literature and newspapers and that sort of material. Of course, once the television came on the scene, once film came on the scene, music, radio have always been a huge part of the propaganda machine. There was that whole War of the Worlds experiment, right? H.G. Wells. That was
H.G. Wells.
Yep, that was also in partnership with Tavistock.
Really? Tavistock, really? Wow.
Tavistock was involved in that study, and it was actually I'm going to blank right now on his name, but the president's roommate at Dartmouth at the time was working for NBC. and it was so there was a relationship there. I'll remember it. I'm blanking on it right now, but yeah. And now, but the technology that we have today is totally different. So a lot of propaganda today is done through memetics. It's done through social media memes. It's done through, algorithmic warfare, I would argue. So it's very, very different because it's, when you had 4 channels, you had complete control over the messaging, but it was also only going out to, a handful of places. And it was basically a lockstep, like Operation Mockingbird, right? Now what you have is it's dispersed. And so things have the illusion of being much more organic, but you have these cybernetic feedback loops through the algorithms where you are personally being targeted and siloed. And so you feel like you're seeing specific messaging that must be natural and organic, but you have no idea what someone else's feed looks like and what they're being fed. And so all they're data mining you because they're watching, everything is watching. Your computer is always watching, your phone's always watching, they're always listening. So they're collecting all this data, not just what you type or what you respond to, but things like your facial expressions and, things that are autonomic. They're actually collecting that type of data. And based on that data, they're then feeding you information that can have the effect of conditioning you, nudging you, programming you. And so it does become a cybernetic feedback loop. And so it's very different than previous kinds of social engineering, I would argue, and much more complicated.
Do you think this is
much more powerful, probably as well?
Yes.
Like how much of this do you think is happening on X at the moment?
Like 100%. X is actually one of the, I think, most insidious forms of mimetic warfare and information warfare.
How so?
Because it's so there is I'm not a huge Marshall McLuhan fan for a lot of reasons, but I do think in terms of the medium is the message is the medium in terms of that phrasing, there is some accuracy to that. Coming from my film world, film, television, theater are all very different mediums, and what you convey in those mediums, the audience experience and the actor's delivery is all going to be very different. The same thing happens with all of these different types of social media platforms. So essentially what they are is they're socio-technical systems. And you have let's say you're on Instagram, you have that little square, right? Or maybe you have the stories, which, Facebook and Instagram, they're both meta and they have a similar structure, but it's very well geared towards a lot of advertising, right? A lot of businesses, small businesses. It's very visual in nature. So you're seeing people's, either pictures or videos of things. And so they're capturing your attention that way. Twitter is mostly text. Some people will post videos, but for the most part, it's text. And so the type of information, it's where a lot of people go for news. It's where they go to find out what the sociocultural zeitgeist of the moment is, right? Because it is text, and because it's also instant. So some of the other platforms, whether it be, Instagram, Facebook tends to be a lot more like family pictures, right? This resonates because it's true. Yeah. So it's a very different medium. But, you could go on Facebook and you might see, whatever, somebody posts or pictures of their family that if you saw it a week later, it's not going to change things too much, right? Whereas Twitter is all about instant response. So the algorithm is explicitly designed to elicit a reaction. So it incentivizes people who respond very quickly. What would make somebody respond very quickly if they're in a state of heightened emotion, right? And there's actually, Elon Musk even talked about this. He talked about priming the amygdala and that this is how, social media works. So he knows this full well, but there's actually a great document. It's called the cognitive warfare document. They actually did a series, and this is out of NATO intelligence. And they talked about how they use emotions like fear, anger, desire, passions to keep people engaged and also to create conflict. It's a way that you can start to essentially create dialectical warfare, because now you have people who are very heated and they're going to get passionately embroiled in these conversations back and forth. And because of the nature of Twitter being so instant, it really lends itself to that.
Another big part of that too, with Twitter and X, as we should say, or AKA X, is that there's so many bots, right? There's so many foreign bots that we know of, that, you know, Iranian bots perhaps, and Chinese bots and Russian bots, you name it, right? And probably we probably have our own bots as well. But so that's another thing that goes along with what you're saying, how it's it could be, you know, toxic on X, and it might not even be, you know, I imagine there's, I mean, I think I've read this or heard this, but I imagine there's people on there who like give the most caricatured, crazy opinion, either from the right or the left, in the comments or something like that. And then, you know, and then people like lose their minds. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe this person said this. And it was just some Chinese guy or some Pakistani guy or Iranian. Yeah. You know, so it's like, it's not even a real person, and not even a real American that's really saying it, but they're pretending to be an American. And you're just like, I can't believe the Democrats are so crazy when it's some guy in Asia, you know.
I've actually found myself,
I've done it too, I'm sure. Yeah.
Once the feature came online where you can click on an account's profile page and then look at where you can actually check to see where the account was originated. Mm-hmm. I've found myself checking that a lot more.
Yeah, me too.
Before engaging with these people, because I don't want to be yelling it, because I know how I can be. You follow me and said you know how I can be on here. So yeah, dude, shut up, Dino.
Isaiah's got time for everybody.
I do. I've got soccer. I've got like leftist soccer weebs angry at me now at my video from last night.
Just now? They must not know about you, man. You've been doing this for a while.
Hey, man. But the point I'm making is, these filter bubbles. Like, I remember when I was in college like 15 years ago, and we were talking about filter bubbles and like the web, like the way that they were trying to design the web back then. Like, how do you combat this? I mean, because even I notice how information is siloed. Like people are siloed even on X. Like, I've got friends who one day they're on the right, one day they're on the left, it seems like. But of late, they're just like it's like they get all of their news from all their information they get from like a couple of people, and they're on a completely, if you talk to them, they're on a completely different planet from everybody else.
Yeah.
And the same would be said, and they would probably say the same thing about me.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you combat this?
It's very, very challenging. I'm not exactly sure, as long as we're all on social media. I think, you know, the more obvious answer, I'm not saying necessarily that easy, but is for people to get outside of their bubble, outside of their silo, and, you know, to have more in-person, real life interaction, to talk to people who might not be even on social media outside their bubble, though. I think that's actually really important for people to do. When you're talking about these bots, or, you know, not being an American, some of them are literally just bot farms. They're not even human at all. There are paid bot trolls who are foreign. One of the well-known ones that was exposed through, the post 2020 was the Internet Research Agency, which operates out of Russia. So that, you know, it's well known. There's a Wikipedia page. It's proven. So I'm not, speculating on that. But then there was Candace Owens apparently uses a bot farm, and this was
really?
Yeah. Well, so
really?
And company, and so like they just switch on, but apparently they turned on the wrong algorithm, and so she had like all the same response. Like, I don't remember what it was, but something.
Oh wow!
Sense, and so it was discovered, like, it became really obvious. Oh, she has a bot farm. Yeah.
Whoa,
At her
wow.
audience. So, I mean, that's an example that shows how this is operating. But some of this operates in a much more subtle way, too, with a lot of big, what?
Real quick, how long ago was that?
It was really recent. I want to say it was like last week.
Oh my
Really?
God. Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta look into that. I had no idea.
You just do a quick search, videos of it will come up. And I can't remember the word that kept popping up, but it just didn't make sense. And so everybody knew, like, oh, and apparently it's because it's a company that has many clients and they just flipped on the wrong algorithm.
Oh, that's
What did Candace? Do you know what Candace said about that?
I don't know. I didn't really follow the story. I just thought that was hilarious.
well.
that's pretty funny.
So your boy Nino had something to say about this. Certain people though always blame bot farms when they put out bad ideas and get genuine negative feedback for it. I mean, that's true.
Sure.
I'm sure that happens. Yeah.
And then he goes, everyone that doesn't agree with me is a bot farm. I mean, that's I see how that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
That's absolutely true. But again, I mean, listen, my general rule of thumb is if they got less than 50 followers and the accounts like, the accounts like less than maybe 2-3 years old, or if it's really, really, well, this is what I've known. This is what I've.
Or they have like 6 or 7 numbers at the end of the name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
usually a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Who has that many numbers?
Well, I've also noticed when it's certain, when I can tell certain people they're following certain people, or it's like certain narratives that they're attacking me on.
Yeah.
And I go and look, and it's like 3 followers, and it's a really new account, and it's an anonymous account, and I'm okay. Yeah, this is a bot.
Right, exactly.
And I'm seeing it a lot on Substack now.
Really?
Yeah.
Bots on Substack, really?
Wow. On Substack is that Substack, I mean, obviously there are creators, there are people who write on Substack, but a lot of what people do on Substack is read. So if you go to their profile and they have no reads, then that's a pretty good tell, because why are they on here if they've never read anything?
That is interesting. I didn't think, I mean, but botting is a really, really, really big problem. Not just on
It's going to get worse.
What's that?
It's going to get a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's going to get a lot worse with AI. I mean, we now have those, the Molt bug and the Claude bot, where they're, all these AI agents are now popping up. And that's really, I feel like it's a big beta test for Web3, because that is really what the 5th Industrial Revolution is all about. And some claim we're already in like the beginnings of the 5th Industrial Revolution, but we're certainly in the throes of the 4th. That I don't think is controversial.
What is Web3 exactly?
So right now we're in Web 2, right? So you remember Web 1, that was basically like you had a Netscape, internet search, and maybe Prodigy, or whatever your dial-up. AOL, exactly. So I mean, that was Web 1, and then we got into Web 2, which is what we're in now. So you've got all these different social media platforms. They're very interactive. It's almost like you're in a specific portal, like you go into that world. So Web 3 is where things become much more integrated. They become almost like holographic. And so the way I think about it is almost like you can take one profile. They're more interoperable. So you can start to take one like your whole profile into another. But one of the big things about Web3 is it becomes about agents. So you will have, which is essentially like a digital twin. So you'll have a representation of you, a digital representation of you. Digital twins don't have to be just of people. They can be of entities. Organizations can have a digital twin. And so you're going to have like this online replica that can, they call it agentic, that can speak on your behalf and operate on your behalf. And this is I think this is kind of what that whole Molt bug is foreshadowing. And in my opinion, it is a bit of a beta test.
What do you mean? So do you act on your behalf? You're saying like would you agree to this, or is this like something that is like out of your control, like your agent? your agent twin or
Probably you
whatever.
would agree to it, but you probably agree to it through a click wrap agreement. So, right, you agree to it. It depends on what the condition is, where you're
Terms and conditions.
So you probably have certain, in order to enter something, whether it be a platform or an organization or, maybe a crypto space, part of it will be this click wrap agreement that will sign off a digital agent. It's a huge part of the medical industry that they're developing. This was part of what I was trying to warn people about and this was even before Trump was elected. I kept saying that the idea of MAHA sounds great. I mean, who could argue with the slogan, make America healthy again? I'm all on board for getting rid of seed oils and pesticides and, garbage food coloring and all the processed junk. Like, great. That sounds great. But I really warned people that I think this is a Trojan horse for AI precision medicine. And what happened the first day that Trump gets in, he has this big, big show of Project Stargate. And what does he do? He talks about medicine. He asks Sam Altman, who spouts off and mumbles something, may as well have been incoherent. And I don't recall him having an MD, but he didn't really have much to offer. But don't worry, Larry Ellison came to the rescue. Larry Ellison had plenty to say. And he talked all about how we're going to have prevention for the C illness, and this will all be done through injections of mRNA sort, and we'll essentially have predictive medicine. And this is through AI precision medicine is really what he was talking about. And he spelled it out right away. So that is very much and it's through the digital twins. They'll have a digital twin that they'll map out and then prescribe healthcare based on this digital twin. So, and
the digital twin is identical to you,
or is it a representation of you?
And it's just you. It's not like because I originally when you first said it, my head was going towards like an archetype of somebody, like, oh, he's this kind of guy, or they're that kind of person, and they can match it with, for whatever it suits, like a certain algorithm or a certain service or certain advertising or something like that. So this agent is only you. It's only everybody gets their own.
Well, yeah, I mean it's you, but it's a digital version of
right,
you.
right, sure. So it's gonna have all the information collected on you ever, basically, as much as possible.
Yes, and it doesn't have to
your
be
medical history and all that.
Like an organization could have a digital twin.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Digital twin. So
right.
It's a digital representation of you. And once if you get into like 6G, Web3 stuff, this is where it gets pretty dangerous, honestly.
We should get it. That's what I want to ask you next. We should get into this. I'm not familiar with like Web3 or anything. And I think probably, I assume most people aren't, because I do pay attention to a lot of this stuff
about Web3.
So what do you think this is, like this, the AI Trojan horse or whatever you said about the MAHA and this Web3? Like can we talk about some of the dangers involved with this that you think people need to look out for? Why should we worry about this?
Okay. Well, there's a lot to unpack in it.
We got time if you have time.
Plenty of time.
Okay. I do recommend, if people want like a really kind of a bird's eye view of kind of what's going on, that will set the stage for a lot of this, because a lot of this is being executed through regulatory infrastructure. So I would recommend people, and this is not just a plug it, because it really would help people, because there's just a lot of information. The Final Betrayal is the book that I co-authored with Patrick Wood. It's The Final Betrayal, How Technocracy Destroyed America. We do have in there a cautionary tale. We made this a really short, very accessible book because we want it to be a cautionary tale. A lot of people are not aware of the regulatory infrastructure that is being laid in real time. And so we can't defeat a threat that we don't know exists. And this is not, I know people will get very political about it. This is not about like, Orange Man Bad or Orange Jesus. It's like people seem to put them in two camps. And I'm like, this is really not about that. It is about the regulatory infrastructure that the technocrats are advancing, and they happen to be doing it through the Trump administration. So he has signed something.
So anybody who is president would probably be pushing it through. You're saying eventually.
I do think so. I think that they are using him as a tool, and I have some theories on why he is useful to them in that regard. But yes, this agenda has long preceded Trump. I do think Trump is accelerating it, and I use that word very intentionally, at lightning speed. So when I talk about accelerating, I brought up RFK and I brought up MAHA, right? Well, RFK Jr. actually said last year that a huge part of MAHA is MABA. And he said MABA is Make America Biotech Accelerate. And he said at the end of 4 years, every American should be equipped with a wearable. Why would they need to be equipped with a wearable? It's because they want to collect all of the data through the sensory technology. And there is the Internet of Wearables that is connected to the Internet of Everything, the Internet of Things.
Internet of Things, yeah.
To the Internet of Bodies. And when we get to Web 3 and to 6G, which we don't have 6G now, but with 6G, it will be the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. That is largely where they're headed with all, and they have some of the bio-nano technology currently, but they don't have that type of interconnectivity quite yet. So he signed the Genius Act. The Genius Act is this regulatory infrastructure for cryptocurrency. Following behind it is the Stable Act and the Clarity Act. And Trump has implemented something they call it the truth dollar. And it was under the auspices that they were canceled. And so, they have to have their own new dollar. And it's a stable coin backed by the dollar. And it's a part of the World Liberty Financial. And so they're setting up, I bring all of this up because where they're headed is tokenization. So tokenization, you've heard people like Larry Fink, Howard Lutnick talk about how they want to tokenize everything. And so again, we talked about digital twins.
So what do you mean by tokenize?
Tokenization.
Yeah, what is that? What do you mean by tokenize exactly?
So remember, I was talking about the digital twin is a representation of you. It's not you. It is the
representation, digital representation. Sure.
So what is a token? We often think of tokens like when you play a game. And I don't think that's coincidental. That is what they're creating. They want to create a cybernetic organism in a gamified society. So that where you'll be incentivized for certain behaviors and you will be penalized for others. And this is, it's social credit on steroids, but really it's a cybernetic organism. That's really what they're trying to create. But tokens are a representation of the asset. But this is how you get to owning nothing. And then they say you'll be happy.
Be very happy.
Like joke that I don't know that we'll be happy unless we come to love our servitude in Huxley's Brave New World, which seems to be, if they give us enough soma, maybe. But yeah, that is really where they're headed. And it's the example that I would use is that if you think about, so somebody said it's a representation of the asset. That's right. It's a representation. It's not the asset itself. But if you think about the example I like to use is with real estate. So a lot of people, own a piece of property or they own their home, and not everybody owns it outright. They may have a mortgage. And even if they own it outright, people will argue they don't truly own it if they have to pay property taxes, right? You're leasing it from the government. True, some people have a land patent. That's a whole nother conversation. And they bypass that. But you still have equity in that home. And what do most people in this country do when they need to start a business or they want to buy another property, or they often take a loan using the equity in their home. And this is what this country is predicated on, right? This country is founded on small businesses. And so this is that equity that you have. So you have a tangible asset. Now, what happens if you no longer have an asset-based structure, economic system, where you replace it with tokens? So they're already doing this in Gaza. They're offering people tokens in exchange. They're saying that they'll give them like the equivalent of like $5,000. I think it's 5,000 American. So they will get tokens and they will no longer have ownership of the property. And so their argument is that you can now have fractionalized ownership. And just to put this into perspective for people, they say that increases the democratization of access. But to put this into real, tangible perspective for people, imagine owning a piece of art with somebody else, owning even property with somebody else. Like
it's already been done.
And then
it's already been done. That's timeshares.
Timeshare, but with
timeshares.
Exactly. Yeah. But think about when you own a piece of property with somebody, and let's say you get divorced. There's a reason estate lawyers exist.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's because even with loved ones, this doesn't always work so well. Timeshare is a little bit different because it's you're all buying into it, but you have agreed upon times when you use it, but none of you own it. So in a sense, that's similar. There's a similarity there, but you're not under the illusion that you own it either. Whereas what they're doing with the tokens is they're giving you the illusion that you own something, but you don't. You no longer have the asset. The asset now becomes in the ownership of the BlackRocks, the big banks. You no longer have that asset. They have the asset. And you no longer really have the control. You may live there, but you don't have the controlling rights over it either because they actually own it. And so this is really where they're headed. And this is actually how fintech operates currently. Most of the Islamic countries already operate this way because they are not on a debt-based system because it goes against Sharia. And so a lot of people don't realize, it's actually the last chapter in our book, a lot of people don't realize that because Islam is the leaders in fintech, most of Western banking is already subordinate to Sharia. But they are based on an asset-based system. Where
would that be possibly why they would want to bring in so many Muslims into the West to maybe to be more friendly to this kind of social credit score system, this Web3 thing
that agenda of bringing in the Muslims long preceded this. Long preceded fintech because that technology wasn't quite there when this agenda, was being rolled out. I think that agenda has much more to do with destabilization. But
Right.
yeah, I do think now, certainly what's going on in Gaza and the board of peace is very largely tied to this cryptocurrency and tokenization agenda, which really becomes, I read an article on tokenization that chapter 3 of our book is about it, but I also wrote a kind of very brief article in my Substack just to kind of try and simplify it for people. But then the follow-up article I wrote was called Proof of Persona, which talks about how it will operate as a cybernetic organism, because there's a patent and it's the 666 patent from Microsoft. And it is called, it is cryptocurrency and using body activity data, cryptocurrency systems using body activity data. That's the patent. And so it talks about essentially how they will be using your autonomic bodily processes as proof of work for mining the crypto.
So this
an attention economy. Yeah.
Is this
why would that be? Why is that valuable to them? Like just like what your heartbeat, your bowel movements. Like why is that valuable to them?
Why is it valuable to them? Because
to
control you. It becomes a Pavlovian infrastructure, right? So if you're responding positively, think about, there's been a lot of what I would call, the military would call it operational preparation of the environment. I know the more colloquial term is predictive programming, but think about it in film, right? We've got like Black Mirror episodes where there's some obscene kind of ads that if you don't want to watch them, you have to have some tokens in order to bypass those ads, right? But otherwise, they're just feeding you this content. And it's very similar. It's how they can control you. So based on that, they have to collect the information. And Technocracy Inc. said that. They said that the purpose of the data mining is control.
So can you give an example of how they would control us with this information? Like what consequences there would be, or like if there's a behavior that we're doing that they don't want us to do, what would be the consequence, or vice versa? If there's a behavior that they would want us to do, what might that behavior be, and how would they reward us?
Yeah.
Maybe you bought too much. You went to the grocery store and you bought too much meat this week, and the cows are really bad for the environment. I'm not saying I agree with this, but
right.
They say they methane, and so of course the cows are bad, and you're polluting the environment, and so well, maybe we will not give you tokens next week because you didn't use them well this week.
So this is okay. So this is the part that I'm a little concerned about, because this sounds a lot like what the World Economic Forum have been trying and the UN have been trying to do. This sounds like you will own nothing and you will be happy, but with extra steps. And so I'm very, I guess the word I would say would be, I'm confused about this, because it sounds like this is, I'm not exactly like, I'm turning this over in my head, and I'm like, this seems like a backdoor way for the powers that like the, I guess the way that the post-war rules-based order who have been pushing all this forward, it sounds like another way for them to basically get what they want, even when they're not in power.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was saying. The left typically sets the narrative. They execute the propaganda, and usually, while the right is placated, the agenda advances. And
you think it's going on right now?
This is going on right now. This is in real time. We have the big, beautiful bill. We've got the World Liberty Financial, Truth Dollar, with the Board of Peace is being created, which is like a rebrand of the UN. We have all these data centers going up everywhere, and they don't care about the environment that they supposedly, all their whole narrative that the Club of Rome in 1992 in their Global Revolution document, they admitted that the whole narrative about us being the polluters of the earth, and so the enemy of humanity was man himself, that they claimed in their 1972 document, Limits of Growth, was a lie. It was flat out propaganda, because they needed to create a common enemy to rally behind so that they could advance their agenda. This is where we get this whole climate propaganda. It's not about the climate propaganda. What it's really about, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are all about social impact finance. That is what they are about. So right now you're seeing a whole pivot with the Davos crew. They didn't talk about, the eat the bugs. They didn't talk about, the climate narrative. It goes from global warming to climate change or whatever it is. They need to sell the big, massive lie. They didn't talk about that. They talked about AI. And why? Because AI flies in the face of they know it's a massive contradiction. We've got Colossus, for example, in my state. I'm in Tennessee, and this is in Memphis, Tennessee, where, Elon Musk has his huge super data center, his supercomputer, and I've seen it. These massive methane gas turbines, right? And they're violating the Clean Air Act. They're using fresh drinking water. They have to use fresh drinking water for these data centers, because otherwise it would breed bacteria and be corrosive. And so the fresh drinking water of the people in that area is being utilized by these data centers. It flies in the face of that whole narrative about quote unquote climate change. It's not about climate change at all. And wind and solar are not going to power these data centers that are going up everywhere. But the one
going to be powered by nuclear.
What?
They're going to be powered by nuclear, from what I understand.
That's they haven't fully gotten there yet, but that's the next gen nuclear push, and small modular reactors. They're not quite there yet, but I think that is exactly what they're pushing for. RFK Jr. was very instrumental in pushing next gen nuclear. He has a lot invested in this. So, when I said I thought he was a Trojan horse for AI precision medicine, he was one of the partners of Vantage Point Capital. And they specialize in green kind of environmental technology, but they have a lot of biodigital convergent adjacent technologies as well. So it's yeah.
So and Chris Olin, one of our day ones actually on the show, he said Michael O'Fallon has been very vocal about this in recent years. Mm-hmm. And I think I've seen, I know I've seen Michael O'Fallon, and shout to Michael O'Fallon and the whole and his whole crew. This is a lot. I think this is the first time I haven't really had much to say in terms of this is stuff that's way over my head.
I have some questions here. Isaiah, you got a question?
No, go right ahead, bro.
I'm trying to get to the bottom. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. So.
Because I do want to get to the big thing about Promethean action.
Promethean and LaRouche.
Okay. Yeah. And maybe that's going to answer my question. Maybe that's the segue. But I want to get deeper into it. So they want to do all of this. Why? Because they just want power. They really want absolute power centralized, because they're the major players. They own everything. or do they want to create a singularity where we're all connected and there's like going to be something else that comes after that and they know what it is? Like, what is like, what is the end goal to put all this effort? Why can't you just kind of keep, or are they afraid we're going to run out of resources? Is it actually the right thing to do in a way? Like it's the only best way to do it? Or what do they believe and what do you believe?
Well, it's not a monolith. I mean, there's a lot of players involved, right? So, but when you start talking about they, it gets very complicated. I know people,
but it's very small compared to the people in charge is probably almost a relative handful of people, right? Of like in charge, the financiers, the captains of certain industries.
But it's not quite a handful. It's more than that, and it's a very intricate web. It's like rings on rings structure. And it's actually quite complicated. The joke I make is, most people only played one game growing up. It was Pin the Tail on the Donkey. And so, that's where you get like, it's the Jews or, it's the whatever. It's just people have to find one scapegoat.
Illuminati.
Yeah. And it becomes a very reductionistic, worldview. And the world is just not that simple at all. It's actually very, very complicated. And it is really an intricate web. So if they're not a monolith, they don't all believe the same thing. They don't all have the same blueprint of how to get there. However, there is I would say that in many ways, there are some threads that are commonality threads of shared worldview. But in terms of like this Tescrial crowd, it is very much a post-human worldview. And they very much do believe in a singularity. They believe that that's the next stage of evolution, that they want to create essentially like a noosphere, hive mind. With 6G, Tesla's wireless world brain becomes something that could really be possible. I encourage people, I talk about this all the time, but there's a vision for the centennial of the UN. It's the AI World Society. So the Artificial Intelligence World Society, and they talk about how essentially we will have all human governments supplanted by AI, and everything will be interconnected through these various nodes. So what they really want, when you hear the people in the tech sphere, the academics talking about the future of technology and the future integration of globalism, they talk about socio-technical systems, cyber-physical cybernetic organisms. So they're really trying to create something where everything will be interconnected. And I do think 6G makes that much more realistic, feasible, possible. But, right, you hear whispers of this through people like Elon Musk talking about that with the chip, you can have this kind of, he patented telekinesis and telepathy for Neuralink. So, that's what they're inching toward. They really believe that there is some.
What would that look like? Do you have an idea what that looks like, or was like this hive mind thing? And I actually, I've studied a little bit about this in social media and how Jonathan Haidt says we're like 10% B ourselves, anyways. And you could flick a hive switch just from like 9/11, right? If you're an American, 9/11. Everybody became kind of a conservative for a little bit after that. It's like a hive switch turns off. Or if people march in step in the military, eventually they start to feel like one person. That's why they do it. They're not just doing it for like discipline or something to do. They actually start to feel like they're one person because they're moving in unison. So there's something called like the hive mind, but when it's like an all day hive mind, or is it whenever they need something done, they're like, all right, we need to build a new city. Everybody get going, beep, and everybody's just, all right, we're going to like, is there really any real individuality after that? Like, and do we have secrets anymore?
There isn't really any individuality.
Everybody's going to know what everybody's thinking at all times if they wanted to. That's wild.
Some of them do. Some of them actually want that. I mean, I've watched TED Talks with some of these people where they talk about how amazing it will be that, we can actually have another person's dream. We'll all know what everybody's thinking. We can communicate through telepathy. That's why they're constantly researching things like remote viewing. That whole Stargate project the CIA did in the Gateway process, which was proven to be an epic failure, by the way. I think that Project Stargate now is just an extension of that. It's just that they're doing it with more scientific, quote, I put it in air quotes, through genomics, but it's very much an extension of that, in my opinion. A lot of what Epstein was researching is that what was Gino used? He had 5 layers of consciousness, the highest anybody got to, any of the girls who were tested, because he would have them be rated in terms of their levels of consciousness, was level 3. And yet, so again, massive failure. Epstein said.
Isaiah, did you hear what she said there? I'm sorry, Courtney.
did.
Did you hear what she said before?
I did.
I for some reason, I missed what Courtney said there because there was some
So
kind of
I'll just say it
video.
again. So Gino used
The last like maybe like the last like 20, 30 seconds or something like that. maybe.
Oh, it just
Sorry.
that Epstein said it was an epic
Yeah.
failure. That nobody was,
right.
because level 5 is special abilities, which is essentially psychic powers, right? None of the girls achieved this, but there was one who achieved level 3, and Gino insisted that Epstein keep funding it because this showed she had potential, and that maybe we could get her to level 5, and if she could get to level 5, she could train the others and then potentially train the machines. That is what that was all about.
They made Stranger Things about her.
Yeah, very Stranger Things. Yeah. But this is an extension. And that's actually what they were studying, right? They were studying children, like autistic children, children
Remote
with,
viewing. Yeah.
and trying to teach them things like remote viewing. Exactly. But they've not had success with any of this, but this is what they are focused on.
I heard they did. So they didn't have any. I heard that there's like a guy that was able to look into like a Russian missile silo or military base or something, and he's able to sketch it out for people, and they were able to, they said that he was right about what he's doing. There's like one or a few guys that are able to do it. That's not true?
They might have had like a couple of examples where they say, oh, look, this is evidence of remote viewing, but on the whole, the entire project was an epic failure. They weren't able to teach people to remote view.
So do you think that, because I did hear otherwise, like in specific anecdotes. So do you think that was a cover up of like, oh no, this doesn't work? China and Russia and whoever, that was stupid, that was dumb, but they really have they know how to do it.
They want to convince people because this is a mystical operation. It is a way they can control people. I think they want to convince people of the psychic. This has been going on since the ancient mysteries, right? This is literally how chaos magic, how dark magic operates. So if they can convince people, the ramifications of that are very powerful, whether or not it exists. The same as if they can convince people that AI will become sentient. If they can convince enough people of that fact, then AI never has to actually achieve sentience, because the amount of control and power they will achieve with that narrative is just as strong that it will be almost unintelligible which one it really is. So
let me just get to a couple of these comments on here before I get into this thing.
This is really interesting. By the way, Courtney, this is I'm very intrigued by this conversation.
This is right up your alley, bro.
It is, and I'm curious of like what do they hope to achieve with sentience? Like, why is that the goal? Like, what are we gonna be left to do if we're gonna have AI do everything? Like, what do we do in our free time, or do we have free time? Are we always plugged into the matrix? Like, what is the?
Well, their goal is to acquire all the world's resources. That's what they want. Right. So they want complete control over that. Part of how they achieve that is the social engineering arm. So they have to control us, manipulate us. That's what all of this psychological warfare is about, because it's what creating the one world religion is all about. And because that's a way, a vehicle for them to steer us into the one world government. But ultimately, they want to acquire all the world's resources, and that includes us as human capital. So essentially, we become like cattle that they own.
Humans are the means of production. Just so I can.
But to what end though? I don't want to let this go. So what end at the end though? What is this going to do for us? Like, we're all connected. Maybe we're all rowing in the same direction, which is very powerful as a human species. Are we going to create a new universe or something? We need to create a new god. Like, are we a cocoon for that?
Well, they think AI.
Why is this so important?
Many of them think AI will be the new God. So it's essentially just a rebrand of what Nietzsche said, right? Nietzsche said, God is dead and we have killed him. I don't remember exactly, but what will we do? The murderer of all murderers, who will save us? Will we not have to become him to fill that void? I paraphrase it slightly, but that's essentially what he said. Well, people like Marvin Minsky and Ray Kurzweil, who says the singularity is nearer. He thought it was 2040, 2045. It's now 2040. They say that there is no God, but that we will create him with AI. So they very much do believe in an AI God. You heard Yuval Noah Harari talking about how AI will replace religion because it's just a bunch of words anyway, and AI will have all the words. It will have all the words in the world. And so, of course, it's going to be the omniscient, omnipotent God. That essentially
They're trying to create God in the machine. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
And the goal is so that they have ownership of all the resources and they have complete control of us. And yes, we are the means of production. So yes, it's human capital. And that's the goal. I mean, I don't think it's any more intricate.
So let me do this real quick because I do want to get into what Michael O'Fallon actually did right. Okay. This right here is from I think it was from last year that he wrote this. Just do a quick check. Yeah, last year, January 7th of 25. Mm-hmm. He writes, I'll just read through this. Technocracy incoming. The North American Technate is a proposal aimed at transforming North America into a technocratic society. This plan proposes leveraging Canada's and Greenland's abundant mineral deposits and hydroelectric power to complement the industrial and agricultural capabilities of the United States. As we spoke of earlier in the show, the term technate was first introduced by Technocracy Incorporated in the early 1930s to describe the area governed by a technocratic society that operates using thermodynamic energy accounting, specifically carbon credits, rather than a traditional monetary system. Within this framework, all resources and industries in the region would be utilized to provide citizens with a plentiful supply of goods and services, all within a sustainable ecological context under the initiative known as energy accounting. Quote, there would be no politicians, business people, money, or income inequality. Those were all features of what technocracy called the price system, and it would have to go. Yep. There would be no countries called Canada or the United States either. Just one giant continental landmass called the Technate, a techno-utopia run by engineers and other experts in their fields. In the Technate, everyone will be well housed and fed. All material needs would be taken care of, whether you had a job or not. Yeah. So this is basically what this is like kind of what we talked about earlier, and Michael O'Fallon just went in on that. But
several threads on technocracy and the Technate as well, talking about Venezuela. Yeah, he did a good job though. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds. I mean, again, like I'm not to be repetitious of what of Nino here, but I'm kind of asking the same question, like because I thought we were done with this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought when Trump won in 2024, I thought we were done with this, especially with how fast Klaus Schwab stepped away from the World Economic Forum, how quickly all of these these organizations seem to back away from this. I thought we were done.
You need to read.
It's almost like it was a final betrayal or something.
You need to read our book. It's a 3.5 hour audio. We made it so quick. It's such.
Is it on Spotify?
What?
Is it on Spotify?
No, it's on. You can get the audio on Amazon.
Is it on Audible? Okay, then I'll download the audio book.
Yeah, that was super important to Patrick. He was like, "This has to be really accessible, quick, easy read. It's not a light read. I won't mislead you there, but it is an easy read. We tried to make this very accessible to everybody because we want this information in as many people's hands as possible because of exactly what you're saying. So many people, that they thought that, oh, well, Trump's in and, we don't have to worry about this anymore. This whole World Economic Forum narrative that they're advancing, it's done. We don't have to, worry about that. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And if anything, he's advancing it. And again, it's not him per se. They're doing it through him. Although he's the one doing the executive orders. He's the one who did the one big beautiful bill, the AI action plan, signed the Genius Act. And so this whole entire political, policy and regulatory infrastructure that he has laid out is advancing at lightning speed. This is accelerationism on steroids.
I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
Okay.
Not Trump. Not Trump. Not my Trump. Not my Trump.
Not Trump. All right. Well,
I don't know. Like again,
I don't believe it.
I just firmly believed that. I thought that we were done with this. I thought that we went. I thought we were finished with this. And
Courtney, that's what I say. It sounds to me that there's nothing we could do about it in a lot of ways. Like, is there something we can do about it?
At all. I think there are things.
Okay. Isaiah, why don't you finish your thought? We'll get to that. How about then? What are you going to say?
No,
we'll get to what we can do about it.
Well, again, this is stuff I've never read about. I admit that I know very little about this subject, folks. That's why I've been very, very quiet. This is information gathering from me. I'm probably, if you want me to yell about something, you can wait till the last hour because I got stuff to talk about that. But this particular subject, I know very little about. But just as from a layman's perspective, again, I thought we're finished with this. I thought that electing Donald Trump was going to end because I was very much familiar with how, with James Lindsay and all, and shout to James. He needs to bring me my $7,000.
Me too. I've been chilling.
I was very familiar with that roadway, right? The roadway to a one world government from the left. This one world government pathway that you're describing is basongly from the right.
Peter Thiel probably, right, is a big part of it.
Yeah, Peter Thiel, and amongst others.
Amongst others. Sure.
But
Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, David Sachs. Yeah, the list goes on. Alex Karp is a leftist, but yeah.
So my question is, and I guess this is the same question you had, Nino. How do we stop this? Is there even anything we can do to stop?
Because it doesn't seem like if you vote in Democrats, for example, that's going to really slow it down much. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. And obviously Trump's not going to do it. JD Vance is apparently a Silicon Valley darling, so he's not going to slow it down. So what do we do? Do we create a new party? Do we have a mass French Revolution or Bolshevik Revolution and ransack all our billionaires and hang them up in town square? What should we do, Courtney?
So I think really a lot of the power is local. So a lot of what is being executed is done through companies. It's done through the public-private partnerships. And so you have some power over that in your jurisdiction. So, the example I like to use is because I've had some personal experience with this is in education and in farming. I've done a lot of going to my state. I'm a big proponent of using the 10th Amendment, although I will just caveat that a lot of the states, the legislator are very captured, and they're actually answering not only to the federal, but to a supranational, agenda. So unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption at the state level, but at the very local level, there's a lot people can do. People can start with, if your kids are in school, you can get together with the school board and fight to be sure that there's no AI under fifth grade. I'm just throwing, arbitrary out there, but in my mind, there's no reason why they need to have AI under fifth grade. So that's something that if you can get together with some other like-minded people who are, have children in the same school, or even to get together with the homeschoolers. They're coming after. That's what the school choice agenda is all about, by the way. The school choice agenda is all about putting every child into a computer on a blockchain ledger. Charlotte Iserbyt warned about this in the 80s. She blew the whistle when she was working under the Reagan administration, and she blew the whistle on something called the BEST project, the Better Education Through Technology. And she told us exactly what this agenda for school choice was all about. And she said it would be pushed through the right. And that's what we're seeing today. Trump is now advocating for these vouchers even for homeschoolers, for everybody, which is blatantly unconstitutional, by the way. Yeah. So that whole initiative is about capturing every child, and especially the homeschool children. So this is something locally that you can push back against, and parents can stand up. Homeschoolers can fight for parental rights, which means that they do not do any kind of voucher system for homeschoolers, that homeschoolers have a God-given right to educate their children as they see fit. The government should not be involved in that, and there should be no, the government should have no purview over it. Farmers can do the same thing. They can get together with other local farmers and say, we will not have any climate smart commodity projects in our area. Go to your local municipality, go to the city boards. Like, these are things that people can do. And those are just a couple of examples. I highly encourage, if you have data centers going up in your area, you can push back. Some people have done that, and they've actually stopped building the data center in that area because there was a massive resistance. These are things that people can do. You can also take some ownership over your own data. I mean, that's not something we have complete control over, unless you're going to go Amish and completely go off the grid. But there are things you can do to take ownership of your data. I mean, when you go to the doctor, you can ask about certain, exporting of your information. Where does it go? Does it go to a larger server, a larger database? Can we keep it local? Can it be just done on paper? These are questions you can start to ask. When you're using apps on your phone, you can toggle do not share, right? These are certain things that people can do. There's actually a lot I think people can do, but I think the most important thing is people need to understand that our neural rights and our data is an extension of our personhood. So that should be covered by the Constitution, but most people have not been taught the metaphysical foundation of the Constitution. And to me, it was the one big shortcoming of the Constitution, is that it's an extension of the metaphysical bedrock that was enshrined and codified in the Declaration of Independence. However, at the time, that metaphysical understanding was shared. That has been completely eroded through our education system today.
Metaphysical understanding. What do you mean? Are you talking about like the Christian or belief in God?
It's a creator creation distinction. It's not explicitly Christian. I would argue it's Aristotelian Thomistic in its metaphysical realist roots, but it's the idea that we are all created equal by our Creator. We are endowed with unalienable rights. Those rights are the rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of happiness stems from the Aristotelian concept of eudaimonia, which is human flourishing towards virtue. That means that we are teleologically wired towards virtue. That is why we were endowed with free will. When you look at the education system today, people will argue that religion was taken out of the education system. I would argue that that's actually not true. It was inverted. They teach basically an inversion of the biblical framework. But more importantly than that, what they took out is metaphysics. So most people have no understanding of the metaphysical foundation of Western civilization, and a society that's been deracinated from its roots cannot stand. It can't defend itself.
So it sounds like, okay, so it sounds like you're a theist then, right? Is there a deist or deist? No, like you believe that there's believe that there's yeah. So it's a theist, right?
But my point was not about theological debates. My point was that because this country was not. We have the First Amendment, it's freedom of religion. However, there is a shared metaphysical understanding that there is a creator, there's a creator-creation distinction. We were endowed with free will, and we were endowed with inalienable rights.
So Courtney, I understand that. No, I understand that. So I think everybody understands. I was just saying, so you believe in that, and I'm not, don't worry, I'm not arguing with you. I also believe in that. And you're saying that we, a lot of people obviously don't accept that, right? A lot of people, especially now, are like, well, you know, that's all nonsense. There's no such thing as God. This is all superstition. So it sounds like the implication to me then is that this is a bit of a, you know, quote unquote satanic endeavor that they're going into. It's a kind of an anti-God, it's like you said, deracinating, separating people from you know, their spiritual their spiritual roots, or their connection to God, to something bigger than themselves, which is real, a real spiritual thing. You know, it's hard to define that. It's a very complex thing. Who really knows, to be honest? But I do agree. I do think it's more than just like platitudes or shared humanity or something. I do think there's another dimension to it, a spiritual, real, truly spiritual, metaphysical dimension. And you know, and religions are efforts to define that and explain that and kind of and shape it in a way that for children to understand and adults to understand who can't think that deeply about it. It's something to embed them in society and embed them to have a feeling if they know what they're doing, where they are, why they're here, what they should be doing. And you know, virtue is a big part of that. And to your point, I think the point you're making is that we don't even teach virtues anymore. It seems like, for the most part, which is not good. And we've been seeing society slide in a bad way because of that, right? Civic duty, virtues, patriotism, even.
Yeah, you can't have right. Well, you can't have civic duty if you don't understand virtue. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like to me then that you're saying that you know, that this is kind of like it's almost a natural thing that's going to keep us further away from, quote, you know, from God or something like that. And it's obviously we're going in the wrong direction.
Well, I mean, it's a self-apotheotic kind of a right. They're trying to play God. I call it technological immanentization of the eschaton. So essentially, for those who aren't familiar, immanentize the eschaton is a political term for bringing heaven on earth, bringing about the end time so we can get heaven on earth. I call it the technological immanentization of the eschaton, because essentially they're trying to play God. They want to terraform the earth into a simulacra, and they think that that will be a utopia. And I think a lot of these people genuinely believe that. I mean, it's not that they think they're bringing, I personally think it's going to be a hellscape. They don't think that. They think that this is going to be a utopia, and that they are the philosopher kings to create it and to, of course, lord over us, because they know much better than us, because they are the engineers, right? They are the scientists, the quote unquote experts. They know best. And so that's why, but you're seeing it. They are literally terraforming everything. We did a roundtable on the technocracy war on food. And when they talk about, you know, replacing, for example, meat, they're not talking about Beyond Meat, which is plant-based, or, you know, milk that's cashew and almond or whatever. They're talking about lab grown, which is called precision fermentation. There was one video that I played because it just like struck me like a knife through my heart. It was so shocking. But there's a company called Perfect Day that makes milk proteins, not from cow, not from plants. This is just lab grown fermentation. It's precision fermentation. And it's already in ice companies like ice cream, like Nick's ice cream. It's already being used.
Not my ice cream.
It's not real ice cream. Yeah. They're using this molecule. But what was crazy to me is the company is called Perfect Day, and they play this video of like this very idyllic kind of setting, and they, you know, make their own molecule, whatever, this precision fermentation process. But anybody who's familiar with Ira Levin's This Perfect Day, that's what they were drawing on. Like, that's crazy. It's literally all about the supercomputer controlling the world. It's also crazy to me because Ira Levin wrote a lot of books that were made into movies, and typically Hollywood is all about the predictive programming, but that one they never made into a movie. Maybe it was just a little too on the nose. I don't know.
So who's your boy has asked a pretty good question, Nino. Whose agenda is this? Like who are the people behind this? And what?
So she did mention some, but there's probably some more people she can mention. She mentioned Elon Musk, perhaps Peter Thiel, Zuckerberg, right? Who else would you name?
And right, like when you say how you were saying how like you thought because Trump was in office that this was a leftist agenda,
Yeah.
that's kind of surprising because the World Economic Forum, you thought that was left. I would argue the narrative is left, but when you look at people like the Trilateral Commission, for instance, you know, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Rockefeller, they brought in Carter. These people have historically funded both sides. This is not, it's not a left-right agenda. Technocrats have no political allegiance. They don't care about conservative, liberal, Democrats, leftists, you know, they don't care.
They just want to be in charge.
They're exactly. And
They want to be in charge.
Their focus is optimization. It's about acquiring the resources. So whatever means to seize the resources, that is their objective. It's not a political allegiance for the technocrat. Historically, Elon Musk has voted Democrat for as long as he's been able to vote. And then Trump is in office. And now he's a quote unquote Republican, right? I think the biggest tell was of how they moved the Overton window was you saw when they were pushing back against Elon. Remember, they had that whole they were protesting against Tesla, and then remember you had all of these quote unquote conservatives and Republicans who could afford it rushed out to buy a Tesla. These are people who a year ago, 2 years ago, would never dream of getting an electric vehicle because that would be supporting the World Economic Forum UN agenda. And now they're rushing out to buy a Tesla. So you see how the Overton window gets shifted by having these cult of personalities. It's not about the personalities, it's about the agenda. When you ask who the they is, the they is very complicated. I do think that a lot of the technocratic agenda that we're seeing rolled out, certainly the Trilateral Commission has a big role in this, but I don't think it's even that simple. You know, you've got a bunch of families who are the elite families with more money, way more money than the billionaire class, the trillionaire class. You've got secret societies that are very instrumental in seeding agendas and narratives and spreading, you know, propaganda. You have certainly the different religious institutions that have been infiltrated and they become a vehicle and they have a lot of power and money as well. You have so many. You have the banks, obviously, we can't forget. You've got the 4 city-states, and I say 4 because I consider the Bank of International Settlements to be a city-state. But then, of course, we've got Washington, D.C., the Vatican, the City of London. I would consider them all, but I would say the Bank of International Settlements would be the 4th. You've got clearinghouses like DTCC, who definitely come into play, especially as we move into a tokenized society. And I say society, not just economy, because they want to tokenize everything, including us. So, you know, your education, your healthcare, everything. So it's a very complicated, it's a web. It's an interconnected web, and there's rings on rings. So you've got these power structures where, you know, it's kind of like a mafia organization. I think the one thing that we can learn from the Epstein files, a lot of people are focused on the PDF scandal. And I'm not undermining, you know, that it's tragic what they're doing to underage children. I'm not trying to dismiss that. However, I don't think that that's the big story. The big story that people should be taking away, that people are looking to have arrests for this behavior. And while I'd love to see that type of justice, I don't see it because I don't see it happening because historically throughout history, it never has. This is a demoralization operation to release these files. And then of course, nothing happened. However, there's a lot that people can learn from it. One, the big story I think is the transhuman technocratic agenda. I wrote an 18,000 Word document on it last year, long before the files were released. That's on my Substack if people want to look at that. But I think that's the potential extinction of all of humanity. So I think that's very important. But I think also what's really important is this apparatus. It's essentially like a mafia structure. And this is when I talk about rings on rings, right? Actually, Adam Weishaupt, who was the head of the Bavarian Illuminati, said that he got the structure of the Illuminati from the Jesuits. This is not to, you know, point fingers at the Jesuits, but because the Jesuits operated through secrecy, he learned that that rings of rings structure was a way to initiate people and to give them clout And so they'd be invested. They would buy in. It's kind of like when you are in a fraternity in college or sorority and they haze you, and now you're invested, right? And so you're going to work on behalf of them. And that's kind of how
Or MLMs kind of like that too, right? Multi-level marketing. MLMs.
Yeah,
Multi-level
MLMs
marketing.
I mean, hopefully they don't do the hazing and they're not doing trauma-based mind control on you. But yeah, there's an element of investment. There's a ladder to climb. And so that structure, the hierarchy, he said, Weishaupt himself said that he modeled the hierarchical structure off the Jesuit structure. But yeah, so I think it's a very intricate, the mafia, the head boss, head mafiosa never does his own dirty work, right? It's always through this, the tentacles of the octopus, because that makes it much harder to trace. It makes it harder to hold anybody accountable. And that's very much how it works.
And I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but do you think there is like a deep down behind all of it, pulling the strings, maybe like some kind of satanic or pagan cults behind it or something like that, like a Gnostic cult or something, or a Baal worshipping Baal, however you pronounce it, Baal or Moloch or something like that. Baal, is that how you pronounce it?
Baal, yeah. Baal, yeah.
Well, I think so. I use I've gotten some flack for it, but I use a little g Gnostic umbrella for a lot of these mystical, esoteric types of cults. Gnostic, it's a way of differentiating. Obviously, capital G Gnosticism was a very specific, Christian heretics in the 1st to 3rd century. So they share a lot of parallels, and ultimately the main through line that they have in common is that they bought the lie of the serpent, that ye shall be as gods, right? And so it's a shared desire for self-apotheosis, whether it be the Neoplatonic emanation to become one. And a lot of them do have Neoplatonic roots. And we see that through a lot of these, the Western esotericism. There's some threads even that have parallels in Eastern mysticism as well. Kabbalism actually is very prevalent in the Dark Enlightenment. Nick Land's whole entire philosophy is strongly Kabbalistic. He's taught that it's a structure. He believes in something called retrocausation. So essentially the present can impact the past is what he believes. And he believes that we will, he doesn't use the term co-create, but that's a term that Alice Bailey would use. And that, of course, the New Thought cult people, like the evolutionary leaders, use that term all the time to co-create. Essentially, the New Thought, Bruce Lipton talks about co-creating a superorganism of humanity. They believe, Nick Land believes that we will create the next stage of evolution, which will be a post-human stage where the technology will essentially supersede us, and it'll become its own recursive, self-perpetuating organism. So yeah, there's elements of that, and I would say that there, this is my personal belief. I do think there's a Luciferian element through a lot of that. A lot of them share that. It's not all the same. They do have different. It's not a monolith, but again, the common theme is buying the lie that you shall be as gods.
And so, do they have any concept of, because we're seeing a lot of files about extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, right? UAPs. And it makes sense with what you said about the present. The present could influence the past. Mm-hmm. If these are interdimensional, maybe these are humans from the future, right? Then they are influencing the past potentially. And also, I also think about the idea of that, like, if you're in a spiritual, say, you're not a human being, but you die and you go to some kind of astral spiritual realm. You perhaps existing outside of time, where maybe perhaps everything happens at the same time, or something like that. I think it's like everything's like an idea. I don't know. I think about these things, but is there any concept of that maybe like this? They feel like this is how we get to being those, if they exist, future extraterrestrial beings that are visiting us now, or whatever they're doing. Maybe they're underwater. Maybe they use the pyramids. Who knows? Is there anything like that they don't really connect those two?
Well, I think that the extraterrestrial UFO disclosure is a basically an operation. I think it's part of like Project Bluebeam, which is a psyop. And I think that it's largely being used to, Reagan said it. He said the best way to get the whole world to unite would be to convince us that there's an extraterrestrial threat. And I think that they are going to possibly use it as a card to convince us that we need some sort of panopticon kind of surveillance state to determine who is human and who is not. And that's going to be part of like a global digital ID. I'm not saying they will do it, but I think that's one of the cards that they have as their potential. They war game scenarios, and then they kind of beta test depending on the responses and how the behavior of the public, what they think will be more effective.
Interesting.
So I want to switch gears real quick because because the way that we met was because of a tweet that a post that I had written regarding Promethean action. I've followed several of I follow Promethean action, and Susan Kokenda. I've been following her, like I guess for a couple of months now, and I'm gonna just share the. Let me just bring up the screen here real quick. I said this was back in January where I said this is the second video that I've shared from this group, and I'm blown away at the level of detail. And then you said I'm appalled at how many are falling for the LaRouche psyops. They lure you with a little historicism, and y'all blindly take the bait. Where's the discernment? Now, I will say this: I did not know. Again, I was unaware of Promethean Action's history, okay? And I was never really familiar with Lyndon LaRouche, other than the fact that he ran a few times for president when I was like a teenager, right? Like I would see, like growing up in Maryland, I would actually see I would actually see Lyndon LaRouche supporters in the neighborhoods in which I grew up. So help me out for a second, because the problem that I have with the point, let me just sum this up real quick. They haven't been wrong about, like, in some of their most recent posts about some of the things that have been going on geopolitically. Why, like, why should I avoid them, or should I avoid them? Like, in terms of like how should, because I think it was Michael O'Fallon who said, I should use what's called a limited hangout regarding them. So
yes, that's accurate.
Please fill me in. Please fill me in on this.
Okay. Well, I have some personal experience in this space, so I will handle this very. I feel very. It's my responsibility to be very delicate about this and very transparent about my history with this. For those who want to see the entire thread, it is on my Substack. I did an article called "Escaping the Wizard Circle." And in that is the entire history. I might have left some things out, but I think I tried to get most of the history of the exchange back and forth between Matthew Ehret and myself. And also I linked to Peter Duke as well, who he went after. So just to give a little bit of a backstory, Matthew Ehret is a co-founder of the Rising Tide Foundation. He is a disciple of Lyndon LaRouche. I have done a lot of podcast shows with him. I was introduced to LaRouche. Like I said, I'm pretty new to this space. I always make the joke that it took me a long time to find the train station, and then I found the high-speed rail, and I've been trying to scramble to catch up ever since. So, I'm always learning, and I'm always feeling like I'm scrambling to catch up. But yeah, so I wasn't familiar with Lyndon LaRouche until a few years ago, and the historicist information, especially for somebody who was not taught history, which most of us weren't taught real history, is actually, there's a lot of good factual information in there. However, operationally, there's an agenda, and it's very dangerous. And when Matt and I would do shows together, we disagreed on a lot of things, and I was always very transparent about that. However, I didn't realize that the steering operation that was occurring, and that I was being utilized as a vehicle for the steering operation. And it got called out because somebody had approached me asking my thoughts on Lyndon LaRouche. And I wrote basically an essay in response. And I had several other people ask. It was one of those things, I don't know, in a span of a few weeks where lots of people asked. And I could not write an essay to every person. So I said, you know what, this particular person I knew really meant well. And I've interacted, done shows with them. And so I took the time to craft, it basically became an essay. So I cleaned that up a little bit. And I said, you know, I'm just going to put this out on my Substack. I put it on Twitter. And it was more of like, okay, I would love to have the time to be able to write an essay to everybody who wants to know what I think of Lyndon LaRouche, but I unfortunately don't have that kind of time. And so here's kind of a one-stop. You can look at this. He took it very personally. He happened to be like coming home from Sochi, Russia at the time. You know, he wrote an attack response to me on that. Now, he first did an attack on our mutual friend, Peter Duke. And I don't know this for certain, but it seemed like it was a warm-up run to come after me, because he went after Peter on a video that he had done literally a year prior. So it seemed a little strange, like, why now you're coming after? But I don't know. I can't speak to somebody else's intent. I'm not in their head. But, you know, from the outside looking in, that's what it looked like. And he came after me pretty hard, which really shocked me because I didn't mention him at all. I explicitly talked about the title was Lyndon LaRouche as a Kremlin tool. And I said tool. I didn't say, you know, he was a literal asset, but he serves the Russian-Chinese multipolarity narrative. He's very much pushing that. So I wrote an article on that, and then we ended up going back and forth. My biggest issue with LaRouche was that, like I said, some of the factual information I had used, like his research on Tavistock, for instance, when I first got into the space, Tavistock was actually I don't like the term wake up because it implies Gnostic initiation. So, you know, but that's the colloquial term, right? So that was kind of my entry moment to realize, oh my gosh, I've been lied to about so much, and particularly Tavistock, because it involved my three main areas of study, which have been the entertainment industry, philosophy, and psychology. I wrote 285-page theses on dream analysis in high school. They were essentially dissertations I presented before a panel of neuropsychiatrists in New York City. So I was very immersed in those three fields, and I started college as a neuroscience major and then went into philosophy. And so all of these different industries were where I learned through Tavistock, through the study of Tavistock, they had been utilized for social engineering. I'm not saying they were all created for that, although I do think the field of psychology was. The origins of the history of psychology were occultism, and that's provable. But that would be a whole nother show to go into the details on that.
Right.
But so but my big issue with this was that I used the Tavistock research, some other threads that he had pulled on in terms of historicism. But what I had a major discrepancy with was, and I always did, was this Manichaean split between Aristotle and Plato, which is just a caricature actually of both, but he very much reveres and worships Plato. And I realized that that this was very strategic. The whole purpose of this is to negate Aristotle, because if you negate Aristotle, you negate the metaphysical roots and foundation of Western civilization. And his agenda is very it's all pro Belt and Road Initiative, pro BRICS. It's all about multipolarity, which serves to destroy the West and to bring about the rise of the East and ultimately the technocratic agenda, even though they claim to be opposed to the technocratic agenda. When you look at Promethean, now the Promethean action up until 2024 was called the LaRouche Pack. So they were originally just disciples of Lyndon LaRouche, And they now claim that they're not affiliated with Lyndon LaRouche, which is absolutely asinine. Like, I don't know why anybody would buy that, because they literally were called the LaRouche PAC prior to being the Promethean PAC. But what they've done is they've taken this narrative. LaRouche reduces everything to the Anglo-American establishment, pointing all the fingers at the crown. Now, I certainly have issues with the crown. Like, I'm not saying they're innocent in the eyes of history. However, it's a very reductionistic view, and it very much serves an anti-West agenda. So they say like Anglo-Dutch financial system, right? So this is where you get, LaRouche was actually very anti-Semitic. This is where you get, it's the Jewish bankers, that whole narrative. Right? He's not the only one, but that was a huge part of their narrative. Now, it's worth noting that the elders of the protocols of the elders of Zion was proven to be an intelligence operation, a Russian intelligence operation. What else was a Russian intelligence operation? Operation Trust from 1921 to 1926, right? This was Trust the Plan. It was when they created a fake resistance to the Bolshevik movement. And it was essentially a controlled opposition, but also an intelligence gathering operation. And what did we see with Q? And this is why I talked about my term when I said that Promethean action took a Q-tarded turn. I was very intentional about that. I wasn't being glib and just throwing out, terms. Much like when I say lowercase g Gnosticism, I'm very specific about it. It's not, just this, I'm not throwing it out. I know they're not, traditional academic references, but I use them with intention. And my reason for saying it's a Q-tarded turn is to point out the parallels between Operation Trust and Q. What do you hear with Q? It's Trust the Plan. And Q was also an intelligence gathering operation, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of evidence to indicate that. But you had these Q drops, these Q boards. So they're collecting all this information from the Q followers, all their behavior, all of their, where is their zeitgeist? What is their thought processes? What are they believing? What are they not? What are the narratives that they're sharing? It was definitely an intelligence operation, but it was also a placation operation. You still hear people today who are saying, oh, sit back, trust the plan. Trump is playing 10D chess. Well, he's got it. We just sit back, trust the plan. And you still hear people even now talking about Jassara, Nassara, this whole like debt jubilee. And I can just see them using that to roll out the tokenization, because they're going to say, oh, we'll wipe out your debt and we'll give you a bunch of tokens. But now guess what? You really own nothing. And it's going to be devastating. I hope that doesn't happen, but I could see them utilizing that narrative as a means of rolling out the next stage of their plan. So this parallel between Operation Trust and Q, and now you've got the Promethean action who's taken this Q-tarded turn where they're saying he's really the lion going into the lion's den. He's playing 10D chess with them, and he's taking down the evil British bankers. That's not what's happening here. Trump just partnered with World Liberty Financial, created this truth dollar, the USD1. He's just created this board of peace where he's made himself indefinitely the head, essentially the world monarch, where he gets to now choose the successor. And it looks like they're grooming Baron Trump because they talk about it. They talk about it as if, he's playing with Lego trucks or something. They're like, oh, he's really great with the crypto. It's like if they're there, it's really cute, but it's not. It looks like they're really grooming him. And
who's grooming him? Trump himself, yeah, President Trump?
Yeah, President Trump.
How come they don't let him talk? Like, I have never heard that kid talk in his life.
I don't know, but he's very much potentially a sleeper. With what's going on with the crypto and the tokenization. I think and that also plays into the Q narrative, right? Because Baron Trump and the time traveler, right? All the Q people thought that Trump was a time traveler and Baron Trump was going to be the forever leader. So I can see how, somebody said autistic, maybe that's the narrative. I don't know, but what I do know is how it serves the narrative, and how this narrative serves a greater agenda of multipolarity, which is all about creating these various power blocks, positioning the East and the West, these strategic alliances that essentially weaken the West. But now you'll have these power blocks, which look exactly like the Club of Rome's regionalized adaptive globalization map. They also happen to look like the 10 kingdoms of the Bible. And what does it serve? Ultimately, they converge into a one world government. When I talked about the AI world society, I was talking about the various nodes. So what essentially they want are what they call smart villages. So you'll have all of these nodes. They happen to say that Ukraine will be the central node in this AI world society. So much like Balaji Srinivasan, who talks about how network states are decentralized, but they're decentralized towards a re-centralized center. So essentially, it sounds very similar to what H.G. Wells said when he said that the decentralized ganglia of the information institutions, which were back then academia and the media, which today I would argue are the internet and these socio-technical platforms, would become the conduit to create the world brain. So this is why, yes, some of the historical facts, and this is often how disinfo operations work, is they may have some facts that it's about curation of truth. So they often weaponize the truth. What you have to look at is the operational ramifications. What is the operational result of what they're doing, and where does it go? What is the narrative they're serving? Ultimately, Promethean is all about Russia, China, BRICS. And so they may be saying Trump, they're saying all this surface stuff. And this whole narrative about the British, Anglo-American establishment is also it's a sliver. It's a piece of the bigger story. So you're pointing all the fingers in one direction. That's why it's a limited hangout.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything. I don't have anything to say about that. This has been quite an information rich show. I really appreciate you coming on. What are you working on? And it's been great having you on. What are you working on? And what would you like to let everybody know what's going on?
I am working on another book right now. I did not intend to write it, but it's on Project Russia and on it's essentially like a blueprint to take down the West. And it's actually a literal set of books. So I am writing about how a lot of these Western media figures and narratives are serving that agenda, wittingly or otherwise. So it does look like Dugin is kind of the grandmaster architect of execution of this plan. And so I'm working on that. I have about 70,000 words right now. So yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that I'm hoping I don't know how quickly I'll get it out, just because the formatting and self-publishing and all that is a new thing for me. But I might put it out in stages also on my Substack, so people can get access to some of that a little bit sooner. But yeah, so I have my book, which is The Final Betrayal. And I do really highly encourage people who are not familiar with the technocratic agenda that's operating through the Trump administration to take a look at that. Like I said, it's a really short book. It's filled with sources. So if you want to do deeper dive and do your own sleuthing, there's a lot of leads to do that. But we go through the Dark Enlightenment philosophy, which of course was coined by Nick Land. Nick Land started writing back in 1993. He started something called the CCRU, which is a cybernetic culture research unit, with Sadie Plant, who is a cyberpunk feminist. And this was out of Warwick University, out of the philosophy department. And he's really the father of accelerationism, but he coined the Dark Enlightenment in his 2012 manifesto, which was basically a footnote to Curtis Yarvin. And Curtis Yarvin is who Peter Thiel calls the household philosopher. So we go through that philosophy and how it has become very pervasive in Silicon Valley and is very much infiltrated through the Trump administration and what the various policies that have been rolled out are that are advancing this technocratic agenda. So I highly encourage people to, if they're not familiar with what's going on, to get a hold of that, because we also talk about the rise of state religion. So we tie the Theo bros to the tech bros. I wrote an article also on my Substack called The Phoenix Conspiracy. And I talk about the convergence of the Dark Enlightenment, the Hegelian dialectic against Game B, which is more of the left kind of theosophical movement that's advancing the technocracy, and then how the Theo bros like the NAR movement, the CREC, the Dominionists, and the Christian nationalists are converging to advance this agenda. Not that they're necessarily all coordinating together, but they are converging to advance the agenda, hence the Hegelian synthesis. But you can get my book on Amazon. And if you do get it there and you like it, please leave us a 5-star review, because that's really helps. If you do not like Amazon or you're outside the country, then I would encourage you to go to books.by/Patrick Wood. And it's just a $5 shipping fee. So that's a flat rate, which is very helpful if you're outside of the country. And then if you go to technocracy.news, you can get, if you even buy 2 copies, you'll get a discount. So if you want to buy multiple copies, that's a great place to do it. I can be found, I have my link tree is Courtenay. I spell it like Courtenay, COURTENAY.show. And that has links to my Substack, which I put all of my podcasts out, early access for my Substack subscribers. So they get it first, and they also get it ad free. And, but yeah, that's where you can find a lot of my articles as well. I put them up on Substack, and my website is CourtenayTurner.com. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Courtenay, do you have a little more time? I have like one more question for you. So at least one more. I know you said it could take a whole show to talk about it, but I am interested in the said something about psychology is from occultism or something like that, or derived from that. I mean, I'd like to hear what you mean by that, or in what way.
So the origins of the field of psychology really stem from things like mesmerism, hypnotism. They were occult practices. There was something called the Institute for Psychical Research. So, studying kind of paranormal and psychic abilities, and as a means for controlling others, right, to control the outcome. And if you look at the history of psychology, the grandfather of the field of psychology would be known as Wilhelm Wundt. He was at Leipzig University. There's a great book on this. It's called The Leipzig Connection. It's like this thin, 55 pages. Anthony Sutton used it largely for, he wrote a book on how the order controls education. There was a whole section in there on the Leipzig connection. So Wilhelm Wundt was he didn't have a PhD himself, but he was the mentor to many PhD students, and William James would be one of the first PhDs, and he was known as the father of American psychology. So Wilhelm Wundt was a Hegelian, and therefore he believed that humans were devoid of souls, and therefore they could be treated as lab rats. And so this is where we get downstream from that, the Pavlovian and Skinnerian methods of treating humans as lab rats. And this is very instrumental through, again, it would be a much longer conversation, but through the Dewey, Skull and Bones branch, the St. Louis Hegelians, but there were left and right factions that were very much controlling the modern education system. And then there was also the field of psychology that's downstream from Freud, and there was also all the drugs, right? So Freud was a big proponent of cocaine for himself and for his patients. And so this was a form of, I would argue, black magic. Historically, if you go back even to the ancient mysteries, they would use drugs as a means of trauma-based mind control. They thought that it was a window for transcendent experiences. This is part of what that whole push for psychedelics is all about. And in fact, they're studying this with technology. They're studying something called active inference. And they talk about active inference, especially with the onset of 6G. and they're studying human neural networks as a means of replicating them for artificial neural networks and technological neural networks. And they found that they come into this problem called the dark room problem, and that the way that, it's like when you're in a dark room, there's no discovery. The way that they can get out of this problem, they model humans. So they have 3 steps. They have the sleep. And this is where, the rest period, obviously. So it's kind of like that Black Mirror episode where she has to sleep longer when she has the river mind, so she can power the grid. And then they have rest, which is different than sleep. But rest is where they discard any of the not useful neural network information. And then they have something called the psychedelic effect. So they're studying literally how psychedelics operate with humans and how this could be instrumental for technology to seek new, get out of the dark room problem where they could have new pathways. And this is exactly what Huxley talked about, right? Huxley talked about psychedelics as a means for transcendent experiences. And it's really a way for people to, when they do them, they often say that they have this experience of emanation, right? Everything is one. So they're more likely to subscribe to the Neoplatonic worldview, which is very useful for people who are trying to create a one world religion that will steer us into a one world technocratic governance system. But yeah, so the field of psychology largely does stem from, Jung was a Gnostic. He believed in, he was a Mithrian. He believed that he was actually the Leopicantus, the lion godhead. He talked about the quaternity in the fourth one. The Trinity becomes a quaternary, and the fourth head is Satan. So he had this dream that he thought he became that lion head, literally a representation of Satan, and he claimed that it wasn't a dream. He says it was real.
Was this in the Red Book that he talked about this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, Jung was definitely, that most of them were mystics, and they were either using, and the ones who weren't, it's still not predicated on a realist worldview. It's based on constructivism and self-apotheosis. Some of the ones that we think of as being a little bit more, like the cognitive psychologist, cognitive therapy, they're still based on Marx and Kant, and it's a lineage of constructivism, essentially, and nominalism. So
Sure.
Really oversimplification, but yeah, it would take a lot to unpack all of the details. So yeah,
I'd love to talk to you more about that. That's really interesting. I study psychology as well, still do. I read what was it, The Varieties of Religious Experience. I read most of that book. I think I skipped like 1 or 2 chapters. I read the mysticism chapter, especially with William James, and read some Jung as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
now I know I'm a Gnostic cult member.
Yeah, right. He literally was a Mithrian.
I don't know what that is. What's a Mithrian?
The cult of Mithra.
Mithrian. Okay.
Yeah, it is a Gnostic cult, but yeah. But I just want to caveat that, like, not everybody who, most people in the field think they're doing good and they're trying to help people. So
of course, I was just kidding. Of course,
I'm not saying they're all Satanists. Somebody said MK Ultra all over again. Yeah, MK Ultra did come out of, it came out of Tavistock largely. I don't think that without the Tavistock clinic that they could have, they would have had the tools and the, the research background to be able to execute MK Ultra. But MK Ultra was all the psychologists. Right, Jolly West, and yeah. So
didn't Tavistock have something to do with the transgender stuff as well?
Yes, that's actually where people learned. Most people had never heard about Tavistock until they had that lawsuit, the Cass Review, because it was the part of the Tavistock clinic was the GIDS, which was the gender identity clinic, and they were partnered. And they found that they were transitioning a very large number. But Tavistock Clinic actually started in 1920, and it was the 11th Duke of Bedford who donated the building specifically designated for shell shock therapy research, now known as post-traumatic stress disorder. But he was directly related to the Russell clan, who created the Russell Trust, which became the Order of Skull and Bones, and that was created with the relative of our former President Taft. So that was in 1920. There's a lot of evidence to indicate it's not a smoking gun straight through line. There's a lot of evidence to indicate that the Tavistock Clinic was kind of an outgrowth of the British War Propaganda Bureau, which was known as the Wellington House, but the local members colloquially called it the Lie Factory. It was a propaganda machine that was ostensibly a response to the German Propaganda Bureau. And it was in 1947 that they opened up the Tavistock Institute. The Tavistock Institute became a possibility because of a big grant that the Rockefellers donated. And so the clinic focuses more on, therapy, direct therapy, and the institute is more focused on organizational psychology and, group dynamics, which is essentially brainwashing, it's sensitivity training, and EST kind of groups.
What do you think this transgender stuff might have to do with, like, is it transhumanism? I think you mentioned. Do you think that's a way to push people to get to be more comfortable with that idea?
It's all about transhumanism. I think it was my very first episode. I actually said that. I said, it's not that I don't care about what they're doing to the children is tragic, but I didn't want to be the dialectical operation by really acknowledging too much of the transgender movement, because I really felt that it was a part of a dialectic to advance the transhuman agenda. They do all sorts of experimentation. They advance the science through those surgeries, but it is also about, desensitizing people to humanity and to the human physicality and reality of their being, two genders and, two sexes rather. And that it's all fluid, it's the whole postmodern.
That there's a biological reality at all, a fundamental biological reality that's really, it's kind of how it is regardless, permanently.
Yeah. But there is also a Luciferian component, right? An esoteric, because they worship the Baphomet, which is a hermaphrodite. So yeah, there's in many of the ancient mysteries, they worship some sort of a hermaphroditic kind of a figure. Even in the Eastern mystical, this is what the part of the yoga, tantra yoga traditions. They have the male practitioners will guide the women so that they can take on their feminine, and so they can absorb both, and that's how they derive their power. So essentially, they think they're becoming like this integrated male-female, some sort of hermaphroditic kind of character. So there are occult references to it as well, but.
All right. Well, Courtney, I could talk to you all day long. I think you're very interesting. You're a human encyclopedia. You really can rattle off facts and connections. It's very impressive.
Like I said, this has been, honestly, folks, like I said, this has been this has been a fact-finding mission for me tonight. I really think
lots to think about.
Lots to think about. Courtney, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. I greatly appreciate it, and I will be. I'm going to look for your book on Audible, and I'll definitely be looking to get a print copy as well. Thank you so much, Courtney. We'll talk soon.
Definitely.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Ooh, man, that's a lot to take in, man. A lot to reassess your whole point of view on everything,
So let me, I got to tell you this story real quick. This morning, I gave myself a brain injury.
Really?
So Kareen shows me we were talking this morning over coffee about Coco Melon, the children's show. I'd heard a lot about Coco Melon. Like my brother Laban, who's got 4 kids and 2 of them are still quite small. He's like he has never he's banned Coco Melon, because it's the colors in the show are very bright. They everything's very repetitive. Okay, the colors are bright. the words spoken are repetitive, and the scenes just go like that, right? Just very, very fast. Now, why am I talking about this? I felt the effect on my mind, like it hurt. It actually hurt to watch I thought it was like 3 minutes that I watched. Karine told me it was only a minute and a half. My head hurts now after hearing all of that information we got. Because I'm gonna tell you, I thought we were done. I really thought that we were done with that. We were like right now working to destroy the one world government. I thought I thought it was I really thought it was it was kind of a foregone conclusion. So to hear this information tonight, where it's coming from a different direction, where the globalists are coming from a different direction, it's just like, oh my God. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, she makes it sound. I mean, I guess it's true. I guess you could keep on fighting them locally and stuff, but it sounds like at a federal level, if that's if everything she's saying is true, and I don't know if she's right about everything. Nobody is usually, but if she is, it sounds like no matter who's in office, unless there's I guess a new party that's going to be super adamant about not going along with these people, but it's I don't even know how you could even do it, because all the money and power is with technocrats and bankers and all of that. So it's what do you do
locally? But see, the issue that I have is when it comes to local. The local governments are being run, and I'm just going to be honest, the local governments are being run like fiefdoms. Zohran Mamdani is running New York City like his own personal fiefdom.
And every city is run by a leftist, or progressive Democrat. So I don't, and they're all about that stuff. They're all about that. Oh, we're going to have a utopia and everybody's going to get everything. And we're going to redistribute wealth and property. And that's,
we're going to turn all of New York City into a NYCHA building. How about that? We're going to steal property and take it and give it to who we see fit. It's
and I was just thinking, if they're gonna they'll just promise, if there's a say there's oh, we're gonna put a data center or something, but we're gonna include a nuclear plant or some kind of plant there that's gonna give everybody really cheap or free electricity. Who's gonna be against that?
Exactly. Especially
people are not gonna be against that.
Especially after Cuomo here in New York. Cuomo shut down the Indian Point nuclear plant several years ago. And it is not a coincidence that as soon as Indian Point was shut down, that's when everybody's Con Ed bill shot up through the fucking roof.
What year is this?
Hold on. I'll tell you exactly when that was. I want to say it was 2014. When did Andrew Cuomo shut down Indian Point? Okay, this was much sooner. Andrew Cuomo officially secured the shutdown of Indian Point Energy Center through an agreement announced in January of 2017. Under this deal, Unit 2 permanently stopped operating on April 30th, 2020, and Unit 3 permanently closed on April 30th, 2021. Key details of the closure include negotiated shutdown, safety concerns. Governor Cuomo frequently cited the plant's proximity to New York City, approximately 25 miles, as a major safety hazard, calling it a ticking time bomb. 25 miles away is not. Anyways, that wouldn't even be in the effective. I just look at it this way. People are not going to necessarily be, like you said, people are not going to be against a nuclear reactor bringing cheap energy if it means they're going to save money on their electric bills, if that's an outside benefit.
or yeah, whatever it is, or maybe the company, Amazon or whoever it is, Palantir, I don't know, like they'll be like, oh, you know what, we're gonna pay for your electricity or something. Like they'll probably, I imagine they'll make it worth your while eventually, you know, to get things through, and then it's like, what are you gonna do about it now?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It just seems like inevitable. Like the way she's talking about it, even though she said there's things to do, it seems like it's inevitable or something. You know, I don't know.
It does feel inevitable,
right? You know what I mean?
I mean, like one way, like again, like if you think, like honestly, and shout to Courtenay, like you're more than welcome to come back anytime. Like we really, like I was very
interesting
appreciative of the information, and Nino, I would. If I'm gonna be honest with you, the next time the next I'm gonna make this a public announcement. Next time we have Courtenay on, your show, brother. I mean that.
Well,
I listen. I will happily moderate. I'll moderate the chat. I'll moderate all the info. Like I'll help produce. But this will be your show when she comes back. Bro, I like. This is right up your alley.
Yeah, it was super interesting to me, and yeah. I recognized a lot of the things she was talking about, and of course, I felt like I learned a lot too. Like, you know, and again, like it's hard to say how much people are right about anything. Like everybody's, you know, maybe, you know, they believe certain things too much, certain things they don't, or like, you know, whatever maybe they believe something that's not necessarily. So I'm not saying that's true with Courtenay. Courtenay seems very smart, super well informed.
Yes,
so it's hard to say, but you know, I've seen super smart people and people who like seem like they know everything, not predict, you know, the future so well in a lot of cases. You know, we've seen it many times, and so I always have a grain of salt with almost everything I hear, just because,
yeah,
you know, a lot of things just don't turn out the way people think they are, even if people are experts. But you know, but she was very interesting. I you know, I have a lot of respect for her. I think she's done her homework. Obviously, she reminds me of James Lindsay, the way her mind is. I think like it's like is able to rattle off facts. Like she's like literally like she's almost got like a photographic memory of like facts and names. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to remember all these people's names, all these different organizations, all of these different movements. It's like, you know, that's very impressive. You know, so, but yeah, in the future, like, you know, I'd love to read her book actually. And a new one, just to see, you know, and like maybe look into things and see if she's right about this or that. It's very eye-opening, right? It's a very eye-opening amount of information. So you're not hearing this from many places. Sounds very conspiratorial, a lot of it, but that doesn't mean it's not true, right?
Yeah. I mean, it sounded very conspiratorial to me. And it's like, I know some of this stuff. Like this is stuff I've like some of the stuff that she was talking about. We've talked about on previous shows, but this year, bro, I was oof. Anyways, I have a bit of a rant, and fuck you, Shay, in advance, because he's just talking shit.
What's he saying?
Yeah, he's like, no. When I said that I would moderate, when I said I would moderate the chats and all that for you to do a solo show, his response was LOL, moderate all 5 of us in the chat. Like he's not. That's even
bullshit. No, actually, that's bullshit, man. There's at least 10 people in this chat. you fucking prick.
Oh my god, Joker, who's a great friend of the show. He apologizes for being late. Listen, bro, we were all late.
I was late today too, bro. Sorry, man.
He said my electric bill is over 5 times what it was just 2 months ago. My electric bill cost me more in March than it did during the snow in January. Yeah, like it's happening. Like even here, with the building we live in, right? We pay we pay like a certain percentage of what the of the power used and like throughout the whole building. There's like a bunch of units a bunch of apartments in this building, and every single time, like we've been here since October, and our base rent obviously stay the same, but our gas and electric just keeps going up and up and up and up, and it's like there's no let up. There's no let up to it. So again, like if people who are already hurting for you know, cheaper electricity, cheaper gas, like cheaper energy, they're not going to turn down like if they have to you know deal with an AI fortress, but get you know cheaper energy through a nuclear reactor. I'm sure like there's going to be a deal made. It's probably going to be made in red states before they make it in blue states, because blue states, I am convinced blue states want people to suffer. They want regular people to suffer so that normal people leave and they can just keep bringing in illegals and third worlders. I'm convinced of that. New York is definitely on that wave right now. So I want to talk about this real quick because I opened up the show with it, and you know, because I thought we were gonna talk about like some of the week's news. I'm very disappointed. I wasn't surprised at the spectacle that Barack Obama and the Democrats put on for Jesse Jackson Sr.'s funeral. I shouldn't be surprised at it. Okay. Jesse Jackson was, if for those of you who weren't here at the beginning of the show, Jesse Jackson passed away about a week and a half or so ago. His funeral was Friday. He was 84 years old when he passed. And Jesse Jackson Jr., who'd been sick, I'm actually surprised to see him well in these last videos. He was very like right before the funeral, he was very explicit about wanting to keep his father's funeral a non-partisan affair. Watch.
Dad believed that funerals were not for the dearly departed. He believed funerals were for the living. He believed that they were great gathering meetings, and no two lives in human history will have the same number of people attending their funerals, or the same people will be at their funerals, because your friends ain't my friends ain't your friends. We don't know the same people. You don't know the same people that I know. Do not bring your politics, out of respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived, to these homegoing services. Right. Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these homegoing services are welcome to all. Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We only ask people to come and be respectful in the context of the extraordinary life that he lived. Dad would.
That doesn't seem unreasonable, does it? The son of a civil rights leader, okay, one of the, like, I would say one of few civil rights leaders from that era that actually lived to old age. Okay, like Medgar Evers didn't make it to old age. MLK didn't make it to old age. Malcolm X certainly didn't. So we're talking about Jesse Jackson was able to start the Rainbow Push Coalition, and you know, whether you agree with what he was about or not, it was there. He did try to do good for the Black community, right?
Mm-hmm.
My issue See, that wasn't enough for certain people. Okay, that wasn't enough. I consider there's a certain, you know how there are just some things you don't do, right? There are just some things that are more important than what you got going on here, right? One of the things that was once considered unthinkable was to deny a man his final dying wish. If he was on, or the family of the departed. Okay. Usually when one denies the wishes of a family in their hour of bereavement, that is a clear sign of a deficiency of character. I mean, it objectively is. And so here we are, Barack Obama.
Oh boy.
The 4th president of the United States.
The great uniter.
The great uniter, the deporter in chief, going in on and basically trying to turn this thing into his own personal Wellstone memorial.
Today we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions.
Oh goodness.
Another setback to the idea of the rule of law. An offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other.
Everybody pay very close attention to the body language of the women and men behind him. Ladies and gentlemen, I need y'all to pay attention to this. Look very carefully at this is cringe. This is the first time, dead serious. This is the first time I have seen black people cringing when Obama says when Obama speaks. Gladly, Joker. He asked me to rewind a bit. I'll happily
rewind a bit.
Do that. Okay. Matter of fact, I'll start it. I'll run it back to the beginning. Just make sure we're good. And here we go.
Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions. Another setback to the idea of the rule of law. An offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others.
Well, I mean,
and that some don't even count at all.
That was your whole presidency.
Everywhere we see greed and bigotry being celebrated, and bullying and mockery masquerading as strength. We see science and expertise
very political.
Denigrated, while ignorance and dishonesty and cruelty and corruption are reaping untold rewards.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's very hostile towards any conservatives that might be there, Trump supporters. So that goes totally against. That was Jesse Jackson's son in the beginning, right?
Yes, that was Jesse Jackson Jr.
Clearly went against Jesse Jackson Jr., Jesse Jackson Sr.'s son.
Stepped all over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm assuming Obama didn't hear his words, but if he did, that's, he's an asshole. Maybe he did hear him, and if he did, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe he was there in the crowd, or clearly he went against the Jesse Jackson Jr.'s and his father too, right? Did he say his father wanted that as well? Like he wanted nobody to bring up politics so much.
I think he did. I'll look it up, but I will tell you this. This is honestly par for the course for Barry Soetoro.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad form.
It's bad form. But see, a lot of people don't understand the context behind this animosity. You see, Barack Obama been waiting to do this shit for a long time. Because see, Barack Obama, a lot of people don't know this. And before, and yes, Sheikh, I did vote for Obama. Biggest, one of the, I was R-worded.
At least once I did, just once.
Yeah,
the second time I didn't get around to it.
Yeah, I voted for him twice. I went full retard when it came to Barack Obama, 2008 and 2012. Yeah, shame on me. Shame on me. Listen,
I mean, I supported him both times, so I just didn't vote the second time. That's all.
Look, I admit it. I was wrong for voting for that motherfucker. I was. But the thing about it was, a lot of people don't understand. Black folk weren't feeling Barack Obama at first. Because, see, everybody knew that, I'm talking about on the national level. He was a known quantity in Chicago and Illinois. But people like black folk in particular were not really like, you know, and especially during his first term, okay? Because black folk, like I remember speaking to some people because I was still living in Baltimore at the time. I remember talking to some people down in Baltimore who thought that this man was going to pay people's phone bills, that he was going to give away, like everybody was going to get money in a car, like I'm dead serious. You know, you had the Obama phones and all this other type of stuff.
I mean, illegal immigrants got all that, I guess.
Well, now, yeah,
at least under Biden.
Yeah, but a little true. But don't get me started about him, because Grandpa Joe, because Grandpa Joe. Hold on, I'm gonna look for that too. But Grandpa Joe called everybody at the he called everybody.
I told you all.
Hold on. Matter of fact, I found it right now.
I can't take these guys, man. But he called black people. Oh yeah, he said he's smarter than everybody.
Listen to this shit. This man's this is the same one whose fucking brains fell out of his head at debates. Just listen.
If I told you all earlier, when I was a kid, I had a cleft palate or club foot, none of you would have laughed. But it's okay to laugh at stuttering. I'm not being critical of you, but think about it. It's the one place where people think you're stupid. Oh, really? I'm a hell of a lot smarter than most of you.
What a dumbass.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Same one who told black people in 2020, you don't vote for me. He told Charlemagne the God 6 years ago. He sat there and told Charlemagne the God, Denard McKelvey. He said, if you have a problem trying to decide between me and Trump, you ain't black. Y'all let that old white man tell you what blackness was, and he went and everybody came behind, and y'all lined up and
told you, man. He told you what race you were.
And I'm one of them, and I voted for Biden too. Biggest mistake. I was wrong, completely wrong.
Oh my god, I didn't, but I would have at the time. I didn't. I didn't go. I missed voting again.
And I ain't even gonna play Kamala's. I'm not gonna play Kamala's little clip.
What was the other one recently where they basically called black people stupid? It was black people, I think.
That was Gavin Newsom. That was Newsom.
Oh yeah. He's like I'm like yo. It's like, I can't even read.
Right.
I got 9-7.
I'm dyslexic. I can't read like the rest of y'all niggas. Like what? I didn't even crack. I didn't even crack 1,000 on the SATs.
I'm just like you guys. I know none of you fucking cracked 1,000, you idiots.
Right. Yeah, we just sitting here. We just all retards in here. You hear me with this voice? I'm trying to relate to you niggas.
I know none of y'all can read.
Wait, bro. That Gavin Newsom is
Democrats, man. They're too much.
They made a whole damn movie about Gavin Newsom. It was called American Psycho. Okay, like what the fuck?
Was it Kathy Hochul, governor of New York City? They say black people don't know what computers are.
We don't know what. Right, we right. You just dumbass children just walking around Prospect Avenue and East 149th Street. Just look at a computer, be like, "Yo, gang, what the fuck is that, bro? What is that?" Like, come on.
Jeez, they do not have much faith in black people, man. Democrats. That's they're painting quite a picture.
Well, bro, let me ask you a question. If a political party, if an entire political party knew that all they had to do was give you niggas a show, if they knew, if they knew that all they had to do was just entertain y'all for a little bit, and just dance around, and y'all would line up. They know they could call you every single racial slur on the planet. Y'all fantasize every day about catching some white person slipping when they call them the N-word in public. Y'all fantasize about jumping somebody, killing somebody in the street. Y'all fantasize all day long. It's all over the internet. Yo, let some white person call me a nigga. I'ma fuck him up. I saw this thing on the D train going to the Bronx, and they almost jumped this one white woman. Y'all fantasize about doing that mess, and then here you go, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and the rest of these Democrats call you an N-word every single day. Every single time they get on the mic. Barack Obama 2 years ago, who remembers this? Barack Obama sat there and was talking down to black folk, talking down to black men. Basically asking, why ain't y'all getting this vote out for Kamala Harris? But getting back to my point about Jesse Jackson.
Speaking of Kamala Harris, she thought she can get everybody's vote by having Megan Thee Stallion twerking on stage. Right?
Christ. Jesus Christ. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just play Kamala Harris's thing. Since folk want to people want to play. Yo, this thing was this thing was literally a bad day away from being the president of the United States. If Biden had too bad of a day, this would have been at the damn. This was going to be your president, folks.
Understand, as has been said, the beauty that comes after the storm when we see what is possible and what can be unburdened by what has been.
Oh my God, you still saying that shit?
When a barrier falls for one of the locked out, it opens the doors for all. And that is what he told me. Be unburdened by what is possible and what can be unburdened.
What the hell she say, man?
What has been.
Yo, like really? Like
Jesus Christ, like a string toy, man. Get the fuck off the stage, man. Why are you wasting our time with this shit?
Are you kidding me? Hold on.
You know.
And then you got to see this. Y'all got to see.
Burdened by what is? Oh my God.
Y'all got to see this.
Yeah, unburden me with your bullshit.
This right here is what I was just like, I had it.
So let me just say, I predicted a lot about what's happening right now.
Oh, shut up.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that laugh?
Oh man, save it for Call Me Daddy, man. Save it for the fucking podcast.
Oh my God, these are seriously, these are the people who black folk line up behind. If you talk to anybody in that motherfucking K-Hive right now, they think that Kamala Harris is the biggest, baddest thing in the Democrat Party right now. And a lot of them, oh yeah, you know it's coming too. A lot of them look just like this.
We're in the middle of a hostile government takeover. I want to talk about it, but I've been late for work. And if you say you wait
to go to worst one right here.
We had one, but you didn't want that lady in office. Hostile government.
Y'all line up behind that.
I can't do this, man. I can't.
I'm sorry, bro. Like that seriously, like we're doomed. Black folk, we doomed. We are doomed. Okay. If we keep lining up behind, if we keep lining up behind that bullshit. Wait, hold up. What Shake say? At least they are not fighting in a target. That's for them old white crusty hippies that go in there protesting ICE. Joker says Sesame Street wrote that simple shit. Yeah. Matter of fact, Unplugged FYM says, I want to know where the outrage is from the Democrats for disrespecting the family's wishes. Why would they ever?
Yeah.
Bro, listen, Kamala, not Kamala.
That would be on CNN, bro, if that was Trump, man. No doubt it would be on CNN. They'd be talking about it for like 4 hours and MSNBC.
Barack Obama, Barack Obama did that because he knew that he is still the de facto leader of the Democrat Party. Them white folks worship that man. Them white liberals worship that man. The black ones, honestly, there was a lot of cringe. I'm telling you, I saw a lot of cringe. But listen, Barack been waiting to do this shit, bruh. Barack been waiting to do this. And I can prove it. I'm going to take y'all back to about 2007, 2008, when Jesse Jackson was alive, okay? And there was a hot mic situation where he basically let out his real feelings about the future president of the United States. Watch.
Presidential nominee Barack Obama. On Sunday, Jackson had just completed an interview with the Fox News channel and made the following comment, he says, in reaction to a recent Obama speech on the morals and responsibilities of African American men.
He said he want to cut his nuts out. Jesse Jackson Sr. said he want to cut Barack Obama's nuts out.
Is that what he's? Oh my! Is he talking about Obama?
Yeah.
Presidential nominee Barack Obama. On Sunday, Jackson had just completed an interview with the Fox News channel and made the following comment, he says, in reaction to a recent Obama speech on the morals and responsibilities of African American men.
He said he'd been talking down to black folk. But Jesse Jackson knew exactly what time it was with Barack Obama. Y'all can listen. Y'all can say whatever you want about Jesse Jackson. I got plenty to say about Jesse Jackson. But the one thing that is undeniable is he knew exactly what time it was with that phony, fake motherfucker Barack Obama. Meanwhile, every black person in the hood, every black person in the hood over the age of 50 got a portrait of that motherfucker sitting there hanging right up there above their dining room table. I'm dead serious about all this.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Jesse Jackson Jr. was not pleased. Oh, he was not pleased at all. He was not happy at all. And he let loose.
Oh, really? I want to hear this.
Oh, yeah. He let loose. Here we go.
I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson. He maintained a tense relationship with the political order, not because the presidents were white or black, but the demands of our message, the demands of speaking for the least of these, those who were disinherited, the damned, the dispossessed, the disrespected, demanded not Democratic or Republican solutions, but demanded a consistent, prophetic voice that at no point in time ever sold us out as a people. And it speaks volumes about who the Reverend Jesse Jackson was. Our message has already been delivered today. I can see it all over my mother's face. Rise, Jesse, rise. Give Jonathan Jackson another great round of applause for delivering our family message to the world.
He was not. He's pissed. You could tell.
3 United States presidents. Think of the gravity of that statement. 3 United States presidents who did not know who my father was.
Who was he talking about? Which presidents was he talking about? I know there's Biden, Obama, and who?
Biden, and I think Clinton was there too.
Clinton, maybe W. Bush might have showed up too, but it's probably Clinton.
Well,
I think Clinton probably did it.
Yeah. Clinton was probably there, but I'm just going to say this.
You didn't say anything about Trump.
What? No, of course not. No,
Jesse was cool with Trump, right?
Jesse was very cool with Trump. Okay, a lot of people don't understand that. Robin Jeanette says Trump was the one who believed in Jesse Jackson. He was the one who supported Jesse Jackson's run for president. Yep, and I have the clip that I'm gonna put on here. I want to make it public record at the end of this show. I want to make it public record that Clinton spoke. Yep, unplugged. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
For that, but folks, think of this. 3 United States presidents who did not know who my father was. I want you to understand something very important. If you ever wanted proof that the Democrat Party, 1, are in fact done with black people, and 2, do not care about the feelings, your emotions, your needs, your wants, whatever, the only thing that matters is their political agenda. And if we're honest, Barry probably wanted some get back. If I'm gonna keep it a buck. Because Jesse Jackson never fucked with Barack Obama. He didn't like him. He didn't want him around. Same thing for Tavis Smiley too. Tavis Smiley didn't like Obama either. Him or Michelle. He didn't like Barack. No. Listen. I remember when Michelle Obama. Matter of fact, I remember what it was. Tavis Smiley. It was in 2007, 2008. It was 2008. No, it was during the campaign. Tavis Smiley had this big event that he wanted, that he was trying to do, okay, that he was doing. And he was hoping that Barack Obama, being the Democrat nominee for president, he would hope he invited Barack, to basically talk about what you were going to do for black people specifically in the United States. Barack was like, I can't make it. I've got schedule constraints or whatever. At least that's what how the story goes. So he sent Michelle. He sent Michelle Obama. He sent the wife. Tavis Smiley said, fuck that shit. And he deemed Barack and Michelle Obama persona non grata around him. That was very public in 2008. A lot of people don't remember that. I do. But you got to understand. I do believe that this was not only about this was definitely personal, because Barack Obama holds grudges very, very long. Even when he puts himself in the positions that that he's in. Because think about it. If Barack Obama hadn't fucked with Donald Trump at that White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2011, do you think that Donald Trump would be the president of the United States not once but twice?
I don't know. I mean, I know he's been talking about it for a long time, but I'm sure that made him that really helped make his decision. He's like, all right.
Yeah,
right. We'll see about that.
But for those of you who really want to know, this is who Donald Trump, this is who Jesse Jackson Sr. was. This is exactly the type of relationship that these two gentlemen had.
Bring forth a friend who, when we opened this Wall Street project and we talked about it, he gave us space at 40 Wall Street, which was to make a statement about our having a presence there. And beyond that, in terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And created for many people a comfort zone when I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88. And many others thought it was either laughable or something to avoid. He came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. Who's an effective builder of building the builder people. Last year he was a part of our workshop, of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so a year later, Donald Trump, for a few minutes, challenges and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities. Donald Trump.
Well, it is an honor to be here. And I was with Jesse last year, and we had a lot of fun, and it was a little different. Jesse started off by saying, most of the wealth in this country is in the hands of a few. And I thought to myself, is that a bad thing? What's wrong with that, Jesse? And he said, listen, I want some office space in your building on Wall Street, because the wall on wall will fall. And I said, it's okay, Jesse, I'll make a good deal with you. I'll get you some space. You'll pay about $40 a foot. And he said, no. I don't want to pay 40. So how about 30? No. It's the cheapest deal I ever made in the history of 40 Wall Street. Is that right? He got it for nothing. He's a very tough negotiator. You know that, right? He's a terrific guy. We love him, and I'm here for him. And I will tell you, a large percentage of the people, and especially in construction, that are building these great jobs are Black and minorities, and I'm very proud of it. We have close to 25%, and I think the number's going up, and they do a great job. There are no better builders than we have in New York, and a big percentage of that is Black and minority folks.
I now want to bring forth
Y'all told me this man was racist. Whatever happened to that? Y'all told me that man was racist.
I've noticed that he got a little. Jesse Jackson's been kind of feel like he's taken the back seat since Trump's been on the scene as a political figure. And I wonder how much that has to do with the fact that he was close with Trump, or maybe supported him, or refused to talk trash about him. Maybe not. I don't know. But
Jesse Jackson was sick for quite some time.
But I mean, like, for even since probably like 2015 and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I guess I wasn't really.
Yeah, I think Jesse. There was a video that surfaced a while ago.
I wonder if he's pushed. I wonder if he's pushed it aside, like, by the Democrat Party and everybody, the power figures, and like, Al Sharpton has been more prominent. I feel like in the last.
That's a good question.
He's on MSNBC and stuff, and I don't know. I'm not sure. I just don't remember seeing much of Jesse Jackson, and I remember seeing him quite a bit growing up.
Yeah, I think he was just old. Like, he was old and he was sick. I think that because he was. I think in the last couple years of his life, he wasn't. Jesse wasn't all there. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't. But even 2014, 15, 16. That whole time, I just feel like I haven't seen him in a long time. Plus, before that, Plus his son was sick and almost died.
Oh, really? So, Which one? Jesse Jackson Jr.
Jackson Jr.
He's very eloquent, by the way. He seems like he's definitely giving a better speech than Biden or Kamala. That's for sure.
Well, when the Democrats come in, when the political party that already thinks they are entitled to the Black vote come in right after the family requests not to bring politics into his funeral, and they do it anyway. I'm sorry. That's how villains are created. Okay? That's how villains are. That's a villain arc. You you don't respect my family's wishes.
I'd be pissed. Yeah.
To hell with you. I will burn your entire fucking movement down. Joker asks one last question. He says, let me ask an honest theoretical question. Do you think Jesse would have participated with the walkaway movement had he been a younger man? No. I don't. Or maybe. I don't know.
What's the walkaway movement again?
Brandon Straka's movement. He's asking if he would have walked if Jesse Jackson would have walked away.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I get the sense, dude, though, that his son might be a little bit leaning, like he might be a little red pill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, he was holding back, not so well, but holding back a lot of venom. And he sold out our community. It's like if you really feel that way about a party that's supposed to be helping you, you have no choice kind of to be looking at the other party, at least the two-party system, be like, well, these guys have literally sold us out, 3 presidents. And then, I'm sure he's heard a lot of good things about Trump, and Trump supported his dad. It's like, I bet you he's a little red-pilled right now. And look, it makes sense because the old Democrats are more represented by the by the Republicans, by the MAGA movement, than they are by anything that's going on in the Democrat Party now. Like the old school Democrats, moderate Democrats, that used to make sense. That's more that most of them went to MAGA.
Yeah. And I'm one of them. I mean, I'm 40.
I'm one of them. Sure.
I'm not old. I'm not like my parents in their 60s or our parents.
I'm thinking like 90s, early 2000s Democrats where they're still somewhat normal.
Yeah, sure. But but my thing is this: it's like y'all decided to come in there and act like you own the place. The Democrat Party. All that Democrat royalty in there from Al Sharpton on in, all these people thought they could just walk in there and everything was just going to be laid out because black folk, I'm telling y'all right now, the only people that black folk, that the Democrat Party are going to be able to keep voting for them are black women and gay black men. That's it. That's gonna be the hood. You're gonna have all the hood rats who in these inner cities, and even that's starting to get questionable. Y'all can listen. Black folk only make up about 13% of the population, and that number's probably gonna go down if we keep fucking around and aborting our children. Okay. But they'll
be pushing to euthanize you guys by the before you know it.
Well, here's the thing. 13-14%.
Canada's anything to go by.
Oh shit. Listen, 13-14% was a managed that was a managed population because the Hispanic population is growing day by day. Growing. And not just because of and obviously not just because of illegals. But like
they have more kids,
right. You have more kids. Y'all have more
like the
kids.
Muslims too. Yeah.
So you mean when they're not impregnating goats?
Oh shit!
Like no, but the point I'm making is y'all can't expect to get anywhere with the backbone of the Democrat Party and the back door of the Democrat Party. Because that's all that's going to be left. Y'all can't keep pissing away the black vote like this. Or maybe so. Because again, y'all want to turn black folk into the tax cattle. Y'all want everybody to be the tax cattle while you bring in these third worlders and all these Muslims you're bringing them in and they're the vote cattle. Y'all have figured out a strategy to keep yourselves in power in perpetuity, Democrats. And I'm here to tell you right now, it's about to backfire. But anyways, I've kept it. We've been here long enough. That's our show. Thank y'all so much for joining us. This has been a great night. Shout to Courtenay Turner. Thank you again, my love, for being
Thanks, Courtenay.
Appreciate you. Please come back at any time. Next week, we got a big one. And I know he'll probably have a few things to say about the Jesse Jackson funeral as well. Mr. Damani Felder will be joining us on Sunday, March 15th. You do not want to miss that show. We will be here Sunday night, next Sunday, 8 p.m. right here on Apostate Radio. Till then, I'm Isaiah. That's Nino. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.